Mommy, I don't want Daddy, I only want you, Xiaojing immediately said. It was their mother who earned the money and raised them. He didn't need a father. Yu also nodded. Gigi, Mommy, I don't want him either. Jiang Yao hugged the three little ones tightly. Mommy doesn't like him, but you shouldn't hate him. He wasn't a good husband, but if he knew about you, he would probably be a good father. Chapter 81. The Research Institute. Early the next morning, Jiang Yao arrived at the entrance of the Research Institute, following the address provided by Yun Shu. From a distance, she saw a slender middle-aged woman arguing with the security guard at the gate, her face streaked with tears, her voice choked with sobs. Please, I beg you, save my daughter, you must have a way. Don't you? Please, have mercy. Just let me in. The woman's heart-wrenching cries moved all who heard them. The security guard nearby appeared deeply troubled, patiently explaining. Madam, please calm down first. You can submit an application on our Research Institute's official website. If your situation meets the requirements, our staff will naturally reach out to you. But under no circumstances is forcibly entering allowed. It's strictly against our institute's regulations. Yet the mother seemed to have fallen into despair, utterly unable to heed the advice. She tightly clutched the security guard's sleeve, pleading desperately, "Please make an exception. My daughter's condition is critical. She was perfectly fine before, but now she can't even speak." As the situation grew increasingly tense, Jiang Yao stepped forward, gently helping the mother up. She comforted her softly. "Auntie, you should go home first. Taking care of your own health is what matters most now." Though this was Jiang Yao's first encounter with the stranger, her keen observation immediately noticed the woman's unhealthy pallor, clearly indicating extreme physical weakness. "No, I can't leave. I must save my daughter." The woman still shook her head resolutely, refusing to go. The security guard, misunderstanding the situation between Jiang Yao and the woman before him, frowned and said, "You should take your aunt and leave here quickly. Causing a scene at the Research Institute's entrance is just too unsightly." Jiang Yao quickly waved her hands in explanation. No, I don't know her. I just happened to pass by and saw her about to lose her balance. So I came over to help. I have an appointment with someone inside." "What kind of appointment with someone inside?" The security guard's expression grew increasingly exasperated. "Don't try to use that as an excuse to sneak in." He looked Jiang Yao up and down, muttering to himself that, judging by her appearance, this girl didn't seem like she could possibly have any connection with anyone in the Research Institute. "Really, I only came here because I had an appointment to meet someone inside," Jiang Yao explained. She could roughly guess the security guard's thoughts just by looking at his expression. At that moment, Jiang Yao's phone suddenly buzzed. It was a message from someone at the Research Institute. "MS. Jiang, where are you now?" Jiang Yao quickly replied, "I'm already at the entrance. But I've run into a minor issue and can't get in." The other party quickly replied, "Just a moment, I'll come out to meet you right away." The few people at the entrance were at a standoff, with neither side willing to back down. A few minutes later, the sound of the institute's gate slowly opening could be heard. Shortly after, a man wearing a white lab coat and gold-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose emerged from inside. He stood tall and straight, his steps steady, exuding an air of refined elegance. He walked slowly toward Jiang Yao, a hint of hesitation on his face, and asked softly, "Miss Jiang?" Jiang Yao gave a slight nod and replied succinctly, "That's me." Cheng Yifeng took a deep breath to steady his emotions, then introduced himself. "Hello, I'm Cheng Yifeng." Having said that, he carefully extended his right hand, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. Jiang Yao, seeing this, politely shook his hand in return and simply said, "I'm Jiang Yao." Cheng Yifeng nodded with a smile. Then, he made a gesture of invitation and said warmly, "Miss Jiang, please follow me. Our colleagues at the Research Institute have been looking forward to meeting you for a long time. I truly didn't expect that Miss Jiang is not only highly knowledgeable but also so beautiful." Jiang Yao smiled slightly and followed Cheng Yifeng as they walked inside together. At that moment, the woman suddenly rushed over like a gust of wind, tightly grabbing Jiang Yao's hand, her expression frantic and urgent as she cried out, "We know each other, let me go in with you." Jiang Yao couldn't help but frown slightly, feeling deeply displeased and repulsed by the woman's rash and impolite behavior. Noticing this, Cheng Yifeng, who was standing nearby, cast a questioning glance. Jiang Yao answered without hesitation, "I don't know her." Hearing this, Cheng Yifeng shook his head helplessly, then turned to persuade her kindly, "Madam, please stop making such a scene. It won't achieve anything and might even backfire. If you need help, please follow our standard procedures." The woman froze instantly, as if petrified, standing there dumbly without another word. Jiang Yao couldn't help but glance back, only to see the woman standing there utterly dejected, as if all vitality had drained from her. For some reason, Jiang Yao had a strange feeling in her heart, as if she had seen this woman's face somewhere before, but she couldn't quite recall where at the moment. "Your Dr. Jiang." Professor Gu's face was filled with astonishment, his eyes wide and his mouth slightly agape. Professor Gu was already 50 years old, with half of his hair turned grey and even showing signs of balding, forming a small Mediterranean pattern. Adjusting his glasses on the bridge of his nose, he let out a heartfelt sigh. "The younger generation is truly formidable. I wonder if you, Miss Jiang, would be interested in joining our research institute. Name your conditions." "Our research institute has the best medical equipment, and we offer extremely generous compensation," Cheng Yifeng said. The entire research institute had only one female member, and Cheng Yifeng was thoroughly tired of seeing her. "I'd love to join you," Jiang Yao said. "However, my schedule might not be entirely flexible. If she hadn't been willing, she wouldn't have come today." Great. None of these are issues. We'll sign the agreement today." Chapter 82. The End. "Congratulations to my dearest Yao Yao for successfully landing a job." Yuan Zhou beamed with joy as she raised her glass, lightly clinking it against Jiang Yao's before downing it in one go. At this very moment, the DJ's music in the bar was deafening and exceptionally noisy. Without hesitation, Jiang Yao tilted her head back and downed the drink in her hand in one go. Her gaze fixed on the people in the dance floor who were reveling and dancing wildly, she suddenly felt a surge of spontaneity and said, "Judge, how about we go dance too?" After all, Yuan Zhou was naturally the type who loved to have fun and thrived in lively atmospheres. Hearing Jiang Yao's suggestion, she immediately became exhilarated and couldn't wait to grab Jiang Yao's hand. Striding purposefully toward the dance floor, Jiang Yao quickly immersed herself in the music, dancing freely to the rhythm. Tonight, she wore a delicate and enchanting smoky eye makeup, her long, lustrous black curls cascading like a waterfall, every strand exuding beauty. With so many people on the dance floor, it didn't take long for Jiang Yao to feel her body gradually heating up, so she casually took off her outer coat. As the coat slipped down to her arms, it revealed Jiang Yao wearing a stylish black tank top underneath, perfectly exposing her fair and rounded shoulders. Combined with her naturally striking beauty and excellent figure, she instantly drew the attention of many, their gazes lingering on Jiang Yao involuntarily. Meanwhile, in the private room, Fu Yanli, who was drinking, seemed somewhat distracted. Gu Yubai said, "Old Fu, cheer up when you're out having fun. Even though you don't have a wife anymore, you still have us brothers." At that moment, Lu Zhenian pushed the door open and exclaimed excitedly, "Guess what? I just saw a super sexy and stunning beauty on the dance floor, but the lights were too dim, so I couldn't see her face clearly." Han Xiongyu scoffed dismissively. They had seen plenty of beauties before. "Seriously, come with me if you don't believe it." Lu Zhenian dragged Han Xiongyu onto the dance floor. Lu Zhenian, finally getting a clear look at the beautiful woman's face, "It's actually my sister-in-law." Han Xiongyu sneered coldly. "Seems like you're tired of living." Lu Zhenian seemed to have thought of something, a glint of amusement flashing in his eyes. "Hurry back to the private room and tell Brother Fu." Jiang Yao, engrossed in dancing, didn't notice the two of them. "Brother Fu, do you want to go see the beautiful sister I mentioned?" Fu Yanli's expression remained completely unreadable. "Really not going to take a look? Brother Fu, you'll regret it." Jiu Yubai had a guess in his heart. Could it be? Han Xiongyu nodded, confirming his suspicion. Lu Jianyan's voice was teasingly mischievous. "Brother Fu, your WFE is getting CLOSE and dancing HOT with another man." Han Seongyu followed up, your wife doesn't want you anymore. Gu Bai chimed in right after, your wife is about to have a boyfriend. Fu Yanli felt extremely agitated. He roughly loosened the tie constricting his neck, as if this small action could slightly alleviate the restlessness within him, yet merely moments later, as if unable to bear it any longer. He stood up and strode out of the private room. Upon entering the dance floor, Fu Yanli's gaze swiftly swept across the surroundings. Despite the crowded dance floor, he effortlessly spotted the familiar figure, Jiang Yao. Amidst the crowd, she stood out like a dazzling pearl, radiating unique charm and brilliance. At that very moment, Jiang Yao was dancing with a handsome man. Their coordination was seamless, as if they shared a telepathic connection. At that moment, the man reached out. His hand poised to land on Jiang Yao's bare shoulder. Upon seeing this, Fu Yanli immediately grasped the man's wrist firmly and warned in a threatening tone, "Stay away from her." Only then did Jiang Yao notice Fu Yanli's presence. Her once radiant smile vanished in an instant, replaced by an icy expression. "What are you doing?" Fu Yanli ignored her question, instead forcibly grabbing her wrist and dragging her into an empty private room. "Let go of me." Jiang Yao struggled desperately to break free from his grip while shouting angrily, "Fu Yanli, wasn't what I said last time clear enough? I want you as far away from me as possible." Hearing this, the veins on Fu Yanli's forehead pulsed with anger. "Jiang Yao, when you told me not to investigate, I really gave up. You refused to tell me anything. Yet you lose your temper with me and want to draw a clear line between us. Is that it? What's the point of saying it?" Fu Yanli suppressed his temper. "How would I know if you don't tell me? I'm saying, I was angry because you saved Su Jinyu. You guessed it, didn't you? Everything that happened to Su Jinyu was my doing. I drugged her to make her unable to speak. If I had told you, would you have refused to save her? Why did you do that?" Jiang Yao smiled self-deprecatingly. "Just take it as me disliking her. Who made her so special in your heart? That's not it. You're not that kind of person. And she's not in my heart either." Jiang Yao cut him off. "Fu Yanli, what I said that day wasn't out of anger. Let's not see each other anymore. What was between us ended the day we got our divorce certificate." Chapter 83, Drunkenness. Yuan Jiao silently watched Jiang Yao, who was desperately drowning herself in alcohol, and sighed inwardly. Of course, she knew Jiang Yao's painful drinking spree was all because of Fu Yanli, but for the moment, she couldn't find the right words to comfort her. Jiang Yao's mind kept replaying the final, resolute words she had just said to Fu Yanli. "Fu Yanli, it's over between us." Did this truly mean everything had come to an end? During those years, she poured all her energy and emotions into this man, but in the end, she failed to receive a genuine response from him. Every memory cut into her heart like a knife, making it impossible for her to let go. Whether it was during school or later, Su Jinyu was always by his side. Perhaps it was unwillingness. Jiang Yao thought to herself. At that moment, Yuan Jiao suddenly seemed to remember something. She stood up and said, "Yao Yao, I need to step out for a moment. Wait for me." "Okay." With that, she turned and walked out of the private room. Time passed minute by minute, and after about 5 minutes, Yuan Jiao finally returned to the private room. However, to everyone's surprise, she didn't come back alone this time. She brought with her a total of 8 handsome, vibrant, and full of life young men. "Yao Yao, let bygones be bygones. Don't dwell on the past anymore, no matter how good Fu Yanli is. So what, can he compare to these young and charming younger brothers?" Yuan Jiao said this while signaling the boys to gather around Jiang Yao. By now, Jiang Yao was slightly tipsy, her eyes hazy and her cheeks flushed, exuding a unique charm and allure. This demeanor instantly captivated all the boys present, who began actively striking up conversations with her. One of the boys spoke up first, saying, "Sis, I'm still a college student." Jiang Yao responded vaguely, "No wonder you look so young." Her words carried a hint of coquettish charm, making the boy blush uncontrollably. "Sis, I'm not that young." Another boy quickly introduced himself. "Sis, I'm from the Sports Institute." "From the Sports Institute? Ha, that's great, young and strong." Jiang Yao was still a bit dazed but instinctively responded casually. Hearing this, the boy immediately got excited and added, Me, I not only have pecs but also an 8-pack, sis, wanna feel them? With that, he couldn't wait to lift his shirt, proudly displaying his well-toned physique. The guy guided Jiang Yao's hand to his abs, and she patted them like bouncing a basketball. Not bad. Keep working out, Yuan Zhou, Jiang Yao. A sinister yet familiar voice rang out behind Yuan Zhou. What are you two doing? Yuan Zhou felt a chill run down his spine, his body instantly stiffening like a board. She trembled as she picked up the handbag from the sofa, seemingly eager to flee the scene. But Jiang Yuji stretched out his long arm to stop her, his tone laced with a hint of teasing. What, you want to run as soon as you see me? No, of course not. Darling, I was just about to head home. How about you walk me back? Okay. Yuan Zhou deliberately put on a sweet act, clinging to Jiang Yuji's arm and coquettishly pleading. Jiang Yuji's gaze fell upon Jiang Yao, who was surrounded by admirers. This little sister of mine. Just looking at young flesh is one thing. But how could she actually start touching them? No, she's had too much to drink. I need to take her home. Yao is having so much fun. Just let her play for a while. Look. She's the one taking advantage of them. Wait here, and we'll all go back together when she's had enough. Jiang Yuji snorted coldly. If I hadn't come, would you have made a move too? The door of the private room was gently knocked 3 times, and Jiang Yuji stood up to answer it. Upon opening the door, the tall and upright figure of Fu Yanli appeared before his eyes. With a slight curl of his lips, Jiang Yuji invited him in and said, "You've come at the right time. Please take my sister home." Fu Yanli stepped into the room, and the moment his gaze fell on Jiang Yao, his breath hitched, followed by a chilling aura radiating from his body. At that moment, Jiang Yao had one hand resting on a young man's firm chest while holding a wine glass in the other, her eyes dazed and her face flushed with intoxication. "Everyone, get out!" Fu Yanli's deep voice rang out, carrying an undeniable authority, though reluctant. The young men dared not linger upon seeing Fu Yanli's icy expression and quickly dispersed. After all, just by looking at his appearance, one could tell this man was no good. As the group of boys left, the soft and springy sensation in Jiang Yao's hands suddenly vanished. Dazed, she stretched out her hands, trying to hold them back, saying, "Don't go, I haven't had enough yet." Hearing this, Fu Yanli's expression grew even darker, yet he suppressed his anger and patiently said to Jiang Yuji, "Brother, you all go ahead, I'll make sure she gets home safely." "Alright then." Jiang Yuji nodded, then took Yuan Zhou's hand beside him, preparing to leave together. Yuan Zhou, still worried about the drunken Jiang Yao, forcefully broke free from Jiang Yuji's grip, left with no other choice. Jiang Yuji simply scooped Yuan Zhou up in his arms and strode out of the private room. Jiang Yao squinted her eyes, looking dazedly at the 2 figures before her, as if slowly coming to her senses. Why are you two hugging each other?" Fu Yanli placed her hands on his shoulders and bent down to pick her up. However, Jiang Yao suddenly shrank back into the sofa, mumbling, "Woo-woo, who are you? You scared away my pectoral muscles, give them back to me." A vein on Fu Yanli's forehead twitched uncontrollably. To successfully take this drunken woman away, he had no choice but to lower his voice and coax her like a child, saying, "The pectoral muscles didn't go anywhere, they're still here. If you behave and come with me, I'll let you touch them." "You liar, you're such a big liar." Jiang Yao pounced onto his chest relentlessly, tugging haphazardly at the buttons of his shirt. "Where are the pectoral muscles? You must have hidden them." Fu Yanli had no choice but to reach out and press her small hand against the spot where his pectoral muscles were. "Can you feel them now?" Jiang Yao indeed quieted down and nodded obediently. "Then be good. I'll let you touch them properly in the car later. Stop making a scene now." Fu Yanli finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw her stop struggling, then carefully picked her up and carried her out of the bar. Chapter 84, The Scumbag Ex-Husband. Jiang Yao obediently let Fu Yanli carry her into the car, but the moment she was seated, she began to grow restless. She could be seen wriggling in Fu Yanli's arms with soft whimpers, repeatedly nuzzling her head against his chest. Seeing this, Fu Yanli first signaled the driver to start the car, then raised the partition between the front and back seats. "Don't move around," Fu Yanli warned in a low voice, while extending a broad, powerful hand to firmly grasp Jiang Yao's slender waist. Woo woo woo, you're so mean, Jiang Yao sobbed, trying to break free from Fu Yanli's grip. I want to go home, woo woo woo. At this moment, Jiang Yao's round and perky buttocks were pressed tightly against Fu Yanli's thigh. The friction instantly igniting an inexplicable fire within him. Fu Yanli couldn't bear it any longer and raised his hand, delivering a sharp slap to Jiang Yao's buttocks. The crisp sound echoed through the narrow confines of the car. Jiang Yao winced in pain and immediately covered the spot with her hand, turning her head to look at Fu Yanli with a mix of shock, grievance, and anger in her eyes. You actually hit me, faced with the drunken Jiang Yao. Fu Yanli offered no further explanation or argument. His long, pale fingers deftly undid each button, his movements elegant and precise. As the clothing gradually opened, Fu Yanli's firm and robust chest slowly came into Jiang Yao's view. Jiang Yao's gaze grew increasingly dazed, her cheeks flushing with a charming rosy hue like the evening glow, her body involuntarily leaning closer to Fu Yanli. Let me touch, let me touch. Jiang Yao's lips parted slightly, a captivating smile playing at the corners of her mouth, her demeanor both shy and adorable. Does it feel good to touch? Fu Yanli's deep and magnetic voice whispered close to Jiang Yao's ear, as if carrying a bewitching charm. Jiang Yao couldn't help but shiver slightly, responding in a delicate voice, feels good. Fu Yanli seemed unsatisfied with this answer and pressed further. Do you like me, or what just happened? Jiang Yao's brows furrowed slightly, her eyes revealing a hint of conflict and confusion. I like both. Upon hearing these words, Fu Yanli swiftly removed her groping hand with a quick and decisive motion. He then began meticulously buttoning up his clothes, one button at a time. Seeing this, Jiang Yao hurriedly reached out to grab his hand in an attempt to stop him. Don't you dare get dressed. If you don't obey, I won't pay. However, Fu Yanli ignored her obstruction. Instead, he firmly pinched her cheek and asked coldly, Who am I? Jiang Yao fearlessly swatted his hand away, but her gaze lingered on his handsome face as she asked in confusion, Who are you? Are you a male model? But why do you look a bit like my scumbag ex-husband? Fu Yanli's lips curled slightly, letting out a disdainful chuckle that carried a hint of danger, ignoring Jiang Yao's meddling hands. He buttoned up every single button. Take a good look. I am that ex-husband of yours. Fu Yanli's voice was icy and piercing, sending chills down one's spine. Upon hearing these words, Jiang Yao trembled violently, as if struck by lightning, and fell straight from her chair. Seeing this, Fu Yanli instinctively reached out to catch her, only to watch as Jiang Yao quickly recoiled, her eyes filled with terror and resolve. You're Fu Yanli. Don't you dare touch me. Jiang Yao's voice choked with sobs. Laden with anguish and sorrow, a dull ache spread through Fu Yanli's chest. Why? Because I hate you. I never want to like you again. Why did you leave me for Su Jinyu? I hate the feeling of being abandoned the most. That night, I waited for you the whole time. But you never came, you went to her instead. I'm someone who can just be thrown away. Jiang Yao sobbed uncontrollably, pouring out her pain and resentment. Fu Yanli finally understood. She was talking about that night. Their wedding anniversary. His throat felt as if something was stuck in it, rendering him speechless. Only now did he realize how much harm and trauma this incident had caused Jiang Yao. Fu Yanli's heart ached unbearably as he gently lifted her and placed her on his lap, holding her tightly in his arms. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Please forgive me. He repeated his apologies over and over again. However, Jiang Yao had already stopped crying by this point, only shedding silent tears. Tears streamed endlessly down her pale cheeks like a broken dam, evoking an overwhelming sense of pity in anyone who saw her. She looked both pitiful and utterly heartbroken. Gradually, Jiang Yao cried herself to exhaustion, her body becoming unbearably heavy. In the end, she weakly leaned into Fu Yanli's warm embrace and fell into a deep sleep. After the car stopped, Fu Yanli carefully got out and then wrapped Jiang Yao tightly in his coat. Then, he carried her into the house and went straight to his bedroom. Jiang Yao had drunk too much and was reeking of alcohol. He sighed quietly to himself and gently laid her on the bed. After a brief pause, Fu Yanli turned and walked into the bathroom, turning on the faucet to fill the tub with hot water. Once everything was ready, he returned to the bedside, gently picked up Jiang Yao, who was still in a deep slumber, and carefully placed her into the bathtub filled with warm water. Fearing she might catch a chill, Fu Yanli washed her as quickly as possible. After meticulously drying her body, he carefully tucked Jiang Yao into bed, wrapping her snugly in the blankets. By now, Fu Yanli's own clothes were soaked with water, the damp patches clearly visible. So he stepped into the bathroom and gave himself a quick rinse. When he emerged from the bathroom again, he found Jiang Yao still fast asleep, showing no signs of waking up. Her sleeping posture was very well behaved. Exactly the same as before, as if she hadn't moved at all. From crying for too long, her eyes had become somewhat swollen and red by now. Fu Yanli couldn't help but lean down and gently press a tender kiss on her eyelids. That night, Fu Yanli held her in his arms, staying awake the entire time. The next day, when sunlight streamed through the curtains into the room, Jiang Yao slowly woke up. Rubbing her sleepy eyes, she felt as if her head was about to split open from the intense pain. Jiang Yao struggled to sit up from the bed, looking around in confusion. This was clearly not her familiar bedroom. Not only that, but she also noticed she was wearing an unfamiliar loose white shirt, and judging by the style, it seemed to be a men's shirt. Her heart tightened, and she quickly got out of bed. Heading to the door and gently pushing it open, outside, a tempting aroma filled the air. It was the smell of millet porridge. "Yo-yo, you're finally awake." A familiar voice came through as Auntie Jean emerged from the kitchen. Jiang Yao widened her eyes in astonishment and exclaimed, "Auntie Jean, how come you're here?" If Auntie Jean was here, that meant this was Fu Yanli's home. At this realization, Jiang Yao relaxed slightly. "Auntie Jean, did Fu Yanli ask you to come over?" Jiang Yao inquired. "Yes, Yanli called and told me you were drunk, so he asked me to come take care of you. Come on, Yao Yao, I just made breakfast. Have some while it's hot." "Okay, Auntie Jean." Jiang Yao nodded with a smile and walked over to sit at the dining table. While sipping the sweet and delicious pumpkin millet porridge, Jiang Yao casually asked, trying to sound nonchalant, "Auntie Jean, was it you who changed the clothes I'm wearing?" Whenever Jiang Yao gets drunk, she completely loses her memory, as if that part of her mind had been stolen away, leaving no trace of what happened the night before. She tried hard to recall, but only vague fragments lingered in her mind. She faintly remembered being surrounded by a group of lively young people, but how she ended up at Fu Yanli's house remained a complete mystery. Just as Jiang Yao was lost in thought, "Yes, indeed, I was the one who changed your clothes," Auntie Jean answered before suddenly becoming busy and adding, "Yao Yao, I have soup simmering in the kitchen. I need to check on it." After Aunt Jean entered the kitchen, she couldn't help but mutter under her breath, "Oh dear, it's really hard for my old bones to have to lie." Chapter 85, I'm short on money. Jiang Yao left without seeing Fu Yanli appear. "Yuan Jiao, you'd better confess. When exactly did you and my brother get together?" Jiang Yao's gaze was sharp as a knife, fixed intently on Yuan Jiao. Watching her slightly flustered eyes, Yuan Jiao's eyes kept darting around, avoiding Jiang Yao's gaze, as she muttered, "What are you talking about, Yao Yao?" Seeing this, Jiang Yao grew even angrier. She placed her hands on her hips and widened her eyes, exclaiming, "Wow, you actually dare to keep this from me. I've always considered you my best friend, and yet you're planning to become my sister-in-law." Hearing this, Yuan Jiao's face instantly turned bright red. She lowered her head shyly and whispered, "Jiang Yuji and I have actually been together for over half a year, but I really didn't know how to bring this up with you. What's so hard to say about it? Do you really think I'd stand in your way?" Jiang Yao shook her head helplessly. "I'm sorry, Yao Yao, it's all my fault. Please forgive me." "Okay, you can punish me however you like." Yuan Jiao tugged at Jiang Yao's arm, acting coquettishly. The corners of Jiang Yao's lips curled slightly as she let out a half-amused, half-sarcastic hum. "Fine then, since you insist, your punishment is to babysit for me for a week." After sending the 3 little ones to Yuan Jiao's side, Jiang Yao confidently headed to the research institute. If Yuan Jiao couldn't handle it alone, she would definitely call Jiang Yuji for help. Jiang Yao was completely at ease. Last time, Professor Jiyu didn't get the chance to ask Jiang Yao why she had agreed so readily to join their research institute, finally seizing the opportunity. He quickly asked, Xiao Jiang, why did you decide to join our research institute so decisively? Jiang Yao hesitated for a moment, just about to answer. Beside them, Cheng Yifeng also immediately pricked up his ears, intently waiting for what she would say next. Because I'm short on money, I really need the money. Jiang Yao's eyes were utterly sincere. This, Professor Jiyu scratched his head awkwardly, then turned to Cheng Yifeng and said, Xiao Cheng. Look how honest and straightforward Xiao Jiang is. Cheng Yifeng's lips twitched slightly. He muttered to himself that if he had said something like that, he would have probably been scolded harshly by Professor Jiyu long ago. Just then, a burst of unrestrained laughter suddenly rang out, growing louder and closer. Ha 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 ha. Immediately after, a woman strode in. With a radiant smile, she extended her right hand to Jiang Yao in a poised and confident manner. Hello there, I'm Tang Yuro. Starting today, we'll be colleagues. Tang Yuro had a neat and stylish bob cut that reached her ears, with delicate and well-defined facial features that looked as if they were sculpted. Although this was Jiang Yao's first meeting with Tang Yuro, she inexplicably felt a fondness for this girl. Hello, I'm Jiang Yao. Jiang Yao responded with a smile. However, what happened the next second caught her completely off guard. Tang Yuro suddenly leaned in, leaving only a few centimeters between their faces. Oh my, you're not wearing any makeup. We actually have a natural beauty joining our research institute. Tang Yuro exclaimed in amazement. Thank you for the compliment. You're very beautiful too, Jiang Yao sincerely praised. Tang Yuro wasn't strikingly beautiful, but her looks grew on you over time. She didn't pale in comparison standing next to Jiang Yao, they simply embodied different styles of beauty. Dr. Jiang. You don't seem like someone short on money, Cheng Yifeng remarked, eyeing Jiang Yao up and down while making private conjectures. Dr. Jiang carried herself with exceptional grace, dressed meticulously, and exuded an air of affluence in every gesture. Jiang Yao shook her head slightly and replied calmly, I have children. I'm the sole breadwinner raising 3 kids. Hearing this, everyone present couldn't help but show expressions of surprise. Tang Yuro even muttered with slight dissatisfaction. Ah, really? Then what about your husband? How could he just let you earn money to support the family alone? In her view, a stunning beauty like Jiang Yao should be cherished and pampered by her husband, not burdened with the trivialities of life. However, Jiang Yao's response took everyone by surprise as she calmly said, I don't have a husband. There was not the slightest ripple in her words, as if this were the most ordinary thing. Tang Yuro immediately realized she had said the wrong thing and quickly apologized. Ah, I'm sorry. She felt some regret for her own recklessness. No need, I was the one who initiated the divorce, Jiang Yao said with a smile, seemingly unbothered by this past. At this moment, Professor Jiyu, who had been silent all along, suddenly spoke up. Xiao Jiang, there's a rather urgent surgery. The client is offering a high price and even said that as long as the surgery is completed, money is no issue. I was wondering if you'd be interested in taking this case. His gaze rested on Jiang Yao, carrying a hint of expectation. Professor Jiyu, could you tell me more about the patient's condition? He was in a car accident during a race. The windshield glass cut his wrist, severing both the ulnar and radial arteries, as well as all the nerves controlling his left hand. The wrist area has a dense network of blood vessels, nerves, and tendons. And any mishandling could easily lead to a series of complications. That's why no one dares to take this surgery lightly, which is why it was referred to our institute. It's a hand reattachment surgery. Jiang Yao pondered for a moment. Can I take a look at the patient's medical records? Of course. Professor Jiyu quickly instructed Cheng Yifeng to fetch them. Xiao Jiang, I've assessed the difficulty of this surgery and reviewed the operations you've previously led. I believe you have the capability, and completing this procedure would significantly boost your reputation. You'll be the lead surgeon, but professors from our research institute will accompany you, so there's no need to worry too much. After Jiang Yao received the medical records, she unexpectedly saw a familiar name, Professor Jiyu. Whether to take the case or not is entirely up to you. I'll take it. Chapter 86, Surgical Preparations. Since Jiang Yao took over the surgery, the relevant staff at the Research Institute quickly called the patient's family to inform them of the news. Chuji, I have good news for you. The Research Institute has decided to proceed with your surgery, so you can rest easy and relax. Your hand will definitely be fine. Ji Pan comforted her nephew Fu Chuji in a gentle yet firm tone. However, Fu Chuji at this moment appeared listless and dispirited, only managing to weakly reply, "Thank you, Auntie," in this accident. He only suffered some minor superficial injuries to other parts of his body, but the injury to his hand was truly severe. Don't think about anything now, just relax and wait for the surgery. Later this afternoon, someone will come to arrange your transfer to the Institute's dedicated ward. The official surgery date probably won't be too far off. But Aunt, what if my hand can't be cured in the end? After all, many doctors have told me this surgery is extremely difficult. Faced with her nephew's anxious and fearful question, Ji Pan was momentarily at a loss for words. After a brief silence, she could only respond this way. Since they dared to take on this surgery, it means they have the capability to complete it successfully. As an outsider in the medical field, the utmost Ji Pan could do was limited to this, placing unconditional trust in the doctor's professionalism and ethics. However, within the industry, this surgery has sparked continuous controversy and even widespread skepticism. I've never heard of this Dr. Jiang before. Could it truly be a case of a newborn calf fears no tiger? Who knows, most doctors wouldn't dare take on such a high-risk surgery, especially when the patient is from the Fu family. If the surgeon's hand slips even slightly during the operation, making a mistake would mean the end of their career in this industry. I heard Dr. Jiang is a disciple of old Master Xie, so she must be quite skilled, but she hasn't had any relevant surgical experience in recent years for this kind of neurological surgery. Every step must be executed flawlessly without the slightest error. Let's just observe. If anything goes wrong, it's their research institute that will bear the consequences. Jiang Yao, let's have lunch first, take a break. Cheng Yifeng called out loudly. Since he had become somewhat familiar with Jiang Yao, he began to address her directly by her name. Hearing the call, Jiang Yao slowly put down the scalpel in her hand, because Fu Chuji's hand condition was quite severe and couldn't be delayed for too long. The surgery had to be performed as soon as possible, so she had to practice every minute and second. "All right, coming," Jiang Yao responded and then quickly walked toward the dining room. Since there aren't many staff members at the Research Institute, the cafeteria doesn't serve large communal dishes. Each dish is prepared in modest portions, but the variety is extensive, refined, and delicious, catering to different taste preferences. Jiang Yao, Cheng Yifeng, and Tang Yuro sat together at the same table for their meal. "Yao, do you know that patient?" Tang Yuro suddenly asked, her tone laced with curiosity and a hint of speculation. On the surface, she appears somewhat careless and free-spirited, but in reality, she possesses keen observational skills. "Yes, I do know him. He's my ex-husband's cousin," Jiang Yao answered frankly, with no intention of hiding the matter. After all, once Fu Chujio officially moves into the Research Institute's ward, everyone will eventually learn about their relationship. "I see, so he's from the Fu family. Then your ex-husband must be..." Tang Yuro exclaimed excitedly. "Oh, I remember now, you two were trending before. I even followed that gossip back then. So, was it true or not?" "Well," Jiang Yao paused for a moment before replying, "let's say it was half true, half false." Tang Yuro took the hint and wisely refrained from pressing further. At that moment, Cheng Yifeng interjected. "Fu Chuji is probably about to arrive at the Research Institute. Once he arrives, let's start with a comprehensive preoperative examination of his body," Jiang Yao suggested. "I'll take care of this. I'm relatively free at the moment anyway." Tang Yuro volunteered proactively. After all, her current workload wasn't urgent, while Cheng Yifeng was busy developing new medications, and Jiang Yao needed to focus on preparing for the surgery. "Then I'll leave it to you." "Thank you." Jiang Yao expressed her gratitude. Fu Chujing lay on the stretcher trolley as he was escorted all the way into the research institute. "Auntie, where's my cousin? Why hasn't he come to see me?" As soon as Fu Chuji stepped through the institute's gates, an inexplicable unease welled up in his heart. "Your cousin is still at work. Once Yanli gets off duty, he'll naturally come to see you," Jiyu Pan quickly reassured him. "But, Auntie, I'm so nervous." Fu Chuji clenched his fists tightly, even breaking out in a fine sweat on his forehead, because he fully understood the importance of this surgery. If it failed, his hands might be permanently disabled. "Don't be nervous, young Master Fu. The doctors here are all highly professional, and the surgeon in charge of your operation is very responsible," Tang Yuro said gently as she approached Fu Chuji in her pristine white coat. "That's right, Chuji, you should trust the doctors," his aunt chimed in from the side. "We've already prepared the hospital room. Follow me." Jiyu Pan asked, "Dr. Tang, who is the chief surgeon for Chuji, can we meet them now?" "Well, there's no need to rush. First, let me arrange for young Master Fu to undergo a preoperative examination." Chapter 87, The Spanking Injection. Jiyu Pan waited patiently until Fu Chuji completed all the examinations before she finally left with peace of mind. Having specifically arranged for a caregiver to stay and look after him, Jiang Yao had been busy for a long time before finally finding the opportunity to visit Fu Chuji in the hospital ward. As she pushed the door open, Fu Chuji couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "Sister-in-law." Immediately after, he attempted to sit up from the hospital bed. Seeing this, Jiang Yao quickly stepped forward to stop him, saying with concern, "Stay lying down, your body hasn't recovered yet." Fu Chuji stared at the pristine white coat Jiang Yao was wearing and suddenly realized something, his eyes widening as he asked, "Sister-in-law, are you the chief surgeon who's going to operate on me?" Jiang Yao nodded with a gentle smile, confirming his suspicion. Fu Chuji's face was filled with disbelief. Jiang Yao reminded Fu Chuji to get plenty of rest, as the surgery was scheduled to take place in 2 days. After Jiang Yao left the hospital room, Fu Chuji struggled to pick up his phone with his left hand, the only one still mobile, and sent a message to his elder brother, Fu Yanli. "Fu Chuji, brother, do you really not plan to visit me soon?" Fu Yanli replied, "Fu Yanli, I'll come when I have time." Fu Chuiji helplessly pursed his lips and muttered under his breath, "With my sister-in-law here taking care of me, let's see if you'll come or not." Fu Chuiji spent a long night in the hospital ward, due to being unaccustomed to the bed. He didn't sleep well all night and woke up the next day with 2 big dark circles under his eyes. Tang Yuro walked into the room and immediately noticed Fu Chuiji's haggard appearance, unable to suppress a laugh. "Are you laughing at me?" Fu Chuji said with a resentful look and an icy tone. "The beds here are simply too hard." Tang Yuro curled her lips slightly, responding with a faint smile. "Then young Master Fu might as well bring his own comfortable and soft bed from home." Fu Chuji naturally detected the sarcasm in her words but chose to ignore her. However, Tang Yuro seemed unfazed by his attitude. She picked up a syringe and said expressionlessly to Fu Chuji, "You need an injection. Please cooperate, young Master Fu." "I don't need you to give me the shot." Fu Chuji resisted with a look of refusal. "Where's my sister-in-law? Let her do it." "Are you sure about this?" Tang Yuro raised an eyebrow slightly, her eyes revealing a hint of provocation. Fu Chuji nodded without hesitation, showing absolute certainty. "Very well. Since that's the case, we'll do as young Master Fu wishes." Tang Yuro slowly put down the syringe in her hand. "I'll go fetch Dr. Jiang to give you a butt shot." With that, she turned and prepared to walk out the door. "Wait a moment." Fu Chuji hastily called out to stop her, his voice tinged with panic. "What did you just say? A butt injection?" "That's right, young Master Fu. Don't worry, I'll go find Dr. Jiang right away." Tang Yuro didn't pause her steps and continued walking out. "No, you can't call her." Fu Chuji was frantic and couldn't help raising his voice. "Just find a male doctor to give me the injection instead." If his brother found out that he asked his sister-in-law to give him a butt injection, he probably wouldn't want his butt anymore. But everyone is very busy now and doesn't have any free time. Tang Yuro glanced back at Fu Chuji, her face still wearing a faint smile. Fu Chuji's voice was as soft as a mosquito's hum. Then, you can still give it to me. What did you say? I didn't hear you clearly. Tang Yuro looked at Fu Chuji with an innocent expression, but she was secretly laughing inside. Of course, she heard him perfectly clearly. She just wanted to tease this easily shy big boy a little. Fu Chuji sighed inwardly. Of course. He knew Tang Yuro was doing it on purpose, but there was nothing he could do about it at the moment. After all, in the hospital, the doctor's word is law, so he took a deep breath and raised his voice, saying, Dr. Tang, please give me the injection. Hearing this, Tang Yuro nodded in satisfaction. Good. Now turn on your side, she said. Seeing how cooperative Fu Chuji was, she decided not to tease him any further. Fu Chuji slowly turned around, feeling somewhat uneasy in his heart. Seeing this, Tang Yuro clicked her tongue softly, then reached out to pull Fu Chuji's pants down a bit. Then, with practiced and swift movements, she inserted the needle, completing the process in one smooth motion. Fu Chuji only felt a cool liquid slowly entering his body, causing him to shiver involuntarily. There's no need to be embarrassed, just relax, Tang Yuro comforted softly. I'm a doctor. After all, I've seen plenty of patients and bodies, not just bottoms, but even more private areas. I've lost count of how many I've examined. Fu Chujing's expression remained as cold as ice, but in truth, the tips of his ears had already turned slightly red. He forced himself to reply calmly. I'm not embarrassed at all. Tang Yuro couldn't help but laugh, though she chose not to call him out on it, thought to himself, still being stubborn, look how red your face has become. Just then, Jiang Yao happened to walk into the hospital room. Seeing Fu Chuji's flushed face, she couldn't help but feel puzzled. Hey, Chuji, why is your face so red? Is it really hot in here? No, not at all, it's not hot at all, Fu Chuji stammered in response. He couldn't possibly tell Jiang Yao that he was embarrassed because Tang Yuro had seen his butt, could he? That would be way too humiliating. Tang Yuro stood to the side watching this scene, her smile growing even brighter. She thought to herself, this Fu Chuji is actually kind of cute. Chapter 88. Eating together in the cafeteria. Then you rest well. We'll leave first. Call me if you need anything, Jiang Yao said softly, her tone carrying a hint of concern. Fu Chujing gave a slight nod to indicate he understood. However, the moment the others left the room, his hand quietly propped up his phone and lightly tapped the screen with his fingertip. Only when the hospital room was completely empty did Fu Chujing carefully send the photo he had just taken to Fu Yanli. Fu Chuji, bro, guess who this is? Upon receiving the message, Fu Yanli clicked open the photo. In the picture, Jiang Yao was dressed in a white lab coat. Her waterfall-like long hair gently tied into a low ponytail, her face was free of makeup, exuding a fresh and elegant simplicity, with an overall aura of unique, cool detachment. Shortly after, Fu Chuji sent another voice message, his tone laced with a mix of teasing and ingratiation. Bro, you didn't know, did you? Sister-in-law is personally performing my surgery. Aren't you coming to see me? Hearing this, Fu Yanli couldn't help but feel surprised. He never knew that Jiang Yao was actually a staff member at that research institute. After a moment of silence, he simply replied with 2 words, not watching. At noon, Fu Yanli's figure unexpectedly appeared within the research institute. With steady steps, he walked inward, his gaze inadvertently catching sight of Jiang Yao ahead. Jiang Yao's footsteps abruptly halted, as if surprised by Fu Yanli's appearance, but she quickly regained her composure and continued walking forward nonchalantly, as if completely unaware of his presence. Seeing this, Fu Yanli simply stood directly in front of her, blocking her path. Jiang Yao didn't raise her head to look at him, responding coldly, Fu Chuji's ward is upstairs. Fu Yanli's tone was equally indifferent, as if he didn't care about her attitude at all. I'm not here to see him, Fu Yanli. I think I made myself very clear last time. A hint of helplessness and annoyance flashed in Jiang Yao's eyes. However, Fu Yanli interrupted her. I'm not here for you. His gaze was firm and composed. Jiang Yao couldn't help but frown, her face filled with confusion and wariness, clearly not believing his words. Seeing this, Fu Yanli emphasized again, really not? Then why are you blocking my way? Jiang Yao asked without backing down. The doubt in her eyes undiminished. Just as the two were at a standoff, a voice suddenly came from behind Jiang Yao. Hey, Xiao Fu, you're here so early. It turned out to be Professor Ji Yu who had walked over. Seeing Jiang Yao, he greeted her with a smile. Xiao Jiang, you're here too. Do you two know each other? Jiang Yao shook her head, indicating that she didn't know Fu Yanli. Professor Ji Yu warmly invited them. Perfect timing, I'm about to grab lunch. Xiao Jiang, you must not have eaten yet after just finishing your work, right? Xiao Fu, would you like to join us? Facing Professor Gu's suggestion, Jiang Yao said lightly. I'm afraid President Fu isn't accustomed to eating in the cafeteria. Her words carried a hint of sarcasm. Fu Yanli, however, replied earnestly, it's true I don't often eat in cafeterias, but there's no harm in trying occasionally. Listening to Dr. Jiang, it seems she isn't very welcoming. Though of course, I might be mistaken. After speaking, he smiled and looked at Professor Ji Yu, as if awaiting his response. Xiao Fu, you've really misunderstood Xiao Jiang, that's not what she meant at all. Come on, let's all three of us go together. With that, Professor Ji Yu stepped forward and positioned himself between Fu Yanli and Jiang Yao. After the three of them had gotten their food, they sat down together. Fu Yanli sat directly across from Jiang Yao. As Jiang Yao watched Fu Yanli smiling cheerfully and chatting animatedly with Professor Ji Yu, she mechanically pushed food into her mouth. Finding it suddenly hard to swallow, the meal had become utterly tasteless to her. After just a few bites, she found an excuse to leave early. I wonder if Fu Chuji has eaten anything in the ward. I should go check on him first. Dr. Jiang, you've barely eaten anything. How will you have the energy to work this afternoon if you don't eat more? I'm a bit worried about the patient's conditions. Jiang Yao replied with a forced smile. Don't worry about him. Fu Chuji isn't a child. If he's really hungry, he'll figure it out himself. Besides, my cousin can handle hunger. Professor Ji Yu also chimed in, saying, Exactly, Xiao Jiang, no matter how concerned you are about your patients, you should at least fill your own stomach first before attending to them. This behavior of yours simply won't do. Upon hearing this, Jiang Yao had no choice but to sit back down with a helpless expression, shooting Fu Yanli a fierce glare. Fu Yanli had said he wasn't there to see Fu Chuji, and true to his word, he didn't go to see him. After chatting with Professor Ji Yu for a while, he left. Chapter 89. Why put on a brave face before me? Fu Chuji's surgery was scheduled for 1:00 p.m. Before the operation, Fu Chuji declined visits from his parents and Aunt Ji Yu Pan, leaving only Fu Yanli to come to the research institute. Sis-in-law, will it hurt a lot during the surgery? Fu Chuji looked at Jiang Yao with concern. Don't worry. You'll be under general anesthesia. You'll just sleep through it and wake up when it's over. It's almost time. We're getting ready to take you to the operating room. Jiang Yao reassured gently. As soon as she finished speaking, several medical staff entered the ward and carefully wheeled Fu Chuji out of the room. Fu Yanli waited quietly outside the operating room. Just before entering the operating room, Jiang Yao turned back and gave Fu Yanli a deep, determined look. Don't worry too much. I'll do my absolute best with this surgery. At this moment, Fu Yanli was merely the family member of her patient. I believe in you. Fu Yanli's dark eyes remained fixed on Jiang Yao. Without another word, Jiang Yao turned and stepped into the operating room. As the operating room doors slowly closed, the red light above, indicating that surgery was in progress, instantly lit up. After a long wait of 4.5 hours, finally, the light in the operating room went out. The first to emerge was Tang Yuro, who smiled and told Fu Yanli, who had been waiting outside the door, the surgery was very successful. Just make sure to rest well for the next few days. Thank you. Fu Yanli gave a slight nod, seemingly not particularly surprised by this outcome. After a moment of silence, he suddenly asked, Where is she? Tang Yuro was somewhat puzzled. Your brother will be wheeled out soon. No, I meant Dr. Jiang. How is she doing? Hearing him inquire about Jiang Yao's condition, Tang Yuro couldn't help but wonder about the relationship between this man and Jiang Yao. After a brief thought, she replied, Dr. Jiang should be out soon. Her hands are very steady. There wasn't a single mistake during such a complex surgery, however. Just as Tang Yuro's voice fell, Fu Chuji was slowly wheeled out of the operating room. At this moment, he was still under anesthesia and had not yet regained consciousness. Shortly after, the other doctors who participated in the surgery also emerged from the operating room one after another. Fu Yanli stood at the entrance of the operating room, waiting patiently all along. At last, he caught sight of Jiang Yao. She was being half supported, half held by a male doctor as she walked out. Cheng Yifeng had noticed Jiang Yao's poor condition after the surgery and, worried she might collapse or face other complications, had helped her out of the operating room. Jiang Yao's face was unusually pale, as if drained of all color, which made Fu Yanli's heart clench with concern. Seeing this, Tang Yuro quickly stepped forward and asked with concern, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell somewhere?" Jiang Yao forced a faint smile, trying to reassure everyone, "It's fine. Maybe I'm just a little tired. I should feel better after some rest." However, Fu Yanli's gaze was as sharp as an eagle's at that moment. Fixed intently on the male doctor's right hand holding Jiang Yao, his eyes revealed clear displeasure, even carrying a hint of chilling coldness. Finally, he spoke coldly, "Let go." The coldness and warning in his voice were unmistakable. Cheng Yifeng met his gaze with displeasure. Jiang Yao quickly spoke up, "Thank you, Dr. Cheng. I'm feeling much better now. You two can go ahead." "Oh, sure." Tang Yuro, keenly sensing the unusual tension between Jiang Yao and the CEO Fu in front of them, hurriedly pulled Cheng Yifeng away. Regarding Fu Chuji's hand injury, as long as it's carefully nursed later, there should be no serious issues. It seems he should wake up soon. You can go and check on him. Before Jiang Yao could finish speaking, she suddenly felt Fu Yanli extend his arm, wrapping it around her slender waist while his other hand swiftly slid beneath her knees, lifting her entire body horizontally in one swift motion. "Ah, what are you doing? I can walk by myself." Startled by this sudden action, Jiang Yao struggled desperately to free herself from Fu Yanli's embrace. However, Fu Yanli held her tightly and refused to let go, his voice cold and low as he said, "Look at how pale your face is. Why are you still trying to act tough in front of me?" Hearing this, Jiang Yao silently turned her head away and said nothing more. "Be good and stop struggling. I'm just carrying you to the office. I'll let you down as soon as we get there." Fu Yanli's tone softened slightly. Jiang Yao stopped resisting. "Which office is yours?" Fu Yanli asked softly. Jiang Yao pointed in a certain direction. After entering the office, Fu Yanli carefully placed Jiang Yao on the sofa. "Your period," though phrased as a question. Fu Yanli's tone carried about 70 to 80% certainty. Jiang Yao had always suffered from this chronic issue. During the first 2 days of her period, she would experience all sorts of physical discomfort. Even after taking traditional Chinese medicine, it only slightly alleviated the pain. "Would you like something to eat? How about I order some kanji for you? Or is there anything else you'd prefer?" the man asked softly, his tone filled with concern. However, before he could finish speaking, Jiang Yao interrupted him without hesitation. "I'm really fine. You can leave now. Just treat me as Fu Chuji's attending physician. There's no need to do these unnecessary things for me." Fu Yanli's lips moved slightly as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he remained silent. He just gently pressed his tongue against his back teeth, silently gazing at Jiang Yao for a long while before slowly saying, "Fine." Jiang Yao could tell he was angry. At that moment, Professor Jiu happened to notice the door slightly ajar, so he pushed it open and walked right in. When he saw Fu Yanli standing in front of Jiang Yao, he couldn't help but pause for a moment before breaking into an approving smile and saying, "Xiao Jiang, I must say, your performance in this surgery was truly outstanding. It's like, I've struck gold with you." Fu Yanli nodded slightly at Professor Jiu as a greeting, then without even glancing at Jiang Yao again, turned and left the room. Watching Fu Yanli's retreating figure, Professor Jiu asked Jiang Yao with some confusion, "Xiao Jiang, what exactly is going on between you and President Fu?" Jiang Yao quickly explained, "President Fu came to see me just now to discuss some post-operative precautions regarding Fu Chuji." Professor Jiu nodded in sudden understanding. "I see, Xiao Jiang. You should rest well now, I won't disturb you any further. After Professor Jiyu left, he closed the door behind him. Chapter 90. Osman thus and red bean fermented glutinous rice wine. Jiang Yao was indeed exhausted. Curling up on the small bed in the corner of the office, in her drowsy state, a tantalizing aroma drifted into her nostrils. Struggling to lift her heavy eyelids, she realized it wasn't a hallucination. The air was filled with a rich, sweet scent of red beans. Your sense of smell is quite sharp. A familiar voice reached her ears, and Jiang Yao abruptly sat up straight. Didn't you already leave? After saying those words, Fu Yanli probably wouldn't come. Fu Yanli didn't respond to her question but instead scooped a bowl of hot porridge from the thermal container. Come eat something first, then rest. The bowl of porridge was mixed with chopped greens and lean meat, along with a thick omelette and steamed dumplings. Jiang Yao silently gazed at the man before her. Fu Yanli seemed to see through her thoughts and said softly, "You're Fu Chuji's attending physician after all. If I don't butter you up properly, what if you deliberately make things difficult for him?" "Won't happen." Jiang Yao's tone was unusually firm. "You're paying quite well, you've already bought it, might as well eat some." Fu Yanli persuaded. Jiang Yao slowly reached out her hand, just about to pick up that bowl of Osman thus and red bean fermented glutinous rice wine. Seeing the familiar packaging, she immediately recognized it as her favorite from high school days. A dessert shop across from her school. Every time during her period, Jiang Yao would definitely go by it. She also loved adding an extra portion of soft, sweet sesame crystal dumplings to the fermented rice wine. Fu Yanli gently tapped the back of her hand with his chopsticks. "Save this for last." Jiang Yao's grinning lips instantly stiffened, and her displeasure was clearly written all over her face. However, Fu Yanli didn't indulge her. He simply moved the bowl of fermented rice wine slightly further away and said in an uncompromising tone, "If you don't finish the food in front of you, don't even think about drinking this bowl of rice wine. What gives you the right to boss me around?" Jiang Yao retorted angrily. "Of course I can't boss you around, but this bowl of fermented rice wine is something I bought," Fu Yanli said as he shoved a spoon into Jiang Yao's hand. "Hurry up and eat." "Why would you go all the way there to buy this?" Jiang Yao asked absent-mindedly between sips of the porridge. Her curiosity piqued. "It's quite far from our high school, isn't it? And if I remember correctly, this shop doesn't even offer delivery." It had been ages since Jiang Yao last had anything from that shop. Fu Yanli's expression remained composed as he casually replied, "It was just on the way. I happened to have some business to attend to over there and saw the shop was still open. So I picked it up on a whim." Jiang Yao nodded after hearing this. There was no way Fu Yanli had gone out of his way to buy it for her. She quietly finished half a bowl of kanji, ate the tamagoyaki, and polished off a Zilong babo as well. At this moment, her expression began to darken, as if she had encountered some difficulty. I really can't eat anymore." Jiang Yao frowned, looking at Fu Yanli with a pained expression. Only then did Fu Yanli push the Osman thus red bean fermented glutinous rice wine in front of Jiang Yao. He then took the remaining food from her plate and placed it in front of himself. He picked up a soup dumpling and popped it into his mouth. "These are the leftovers I couldn't finish." Jiang Yao hesitated. Leaving her sentence unfinished, Fu Yanli raised an eyebrow. "Dr. Jiang, you're being quite wasteful." Hearing this, Jiang Yao felt too embarrassed to say anything more and could only silently sip the fermented rice wine in front of her. Suddenly, Jiang Yao was pleasantly surprised to find that the fermented glutinous rice had been added with her favorite crystal tangyuan. She wondered to herself, how did Fu Yanli know her preferences? Could it be a coincidence? With this doubt in mind, she raised her head and looked at Fu Yanli. However, Fu Yanli replied nonchalantly, "Perhaps the staff added it randomly." "I'm not sure." After hearing this, Jiang Yao didn't press further. After finishing the meal, Fu Yanli asked, "Are you going back tonight?" Jiang Yao shook her head. "I won't be going back. Fu Chuji just had surgery, and I'd feel more at ease staying at the research institute. I'll go check on him now." "Alright. I'll go with you. After seeing him, I'll head home." When Fu Chuji slowly regained consciousness, he found himself lying quietly on the hospital bed, the room silent and still. At that moment, the door was gently pushed open. He focused his gaze and saw Jiang Yao and Fu Yanli walking in. Fu Chuji quickly called out, "Sister-in-law, brother." Jiang Yao hurried to the bedside and asked softly, "Chuji, how does your hand feel now? Does it still hurt?" Fu Chuji frowned slightly and replied, "Yes, it still hurts a bit." Jiang Yao instructed, "Don't use your right hand at all these days. If you need any help, ask the nurse or the doctor. Make sure to rest well, okay?" Fu Chuji nodded obediently and responded, "Got it, sister-in-law." Then, Fu Chuji turned his gaze to Fu Yanli, seemingly expecting something. Fu Yanli looked at his younger brother's expression and shook his head helplessly before speaking, "Listen to your sister-in-law. Wait until you're fully recovered before leaving the hospital." Fu Chuji hesitated for a moment, then cautiously made a request, "Brother, when I'm discharged, could you give me that new Maybach you bought?" Upon hearing this, Fu Yanli couldn't help but scoff, wishful thinking. "First, improve your driving skills. This time, you were just lucky to keep your hands intact." Fu Chuji's eyes dimmed instantly, but he still pressed on with undying hope. "Brother, can you come pick me up from the hospital in that Maybach?" Fu Yanli looked at his younger brother's expectant gaze and ultimately softened, agreeing, "Fine, I'll drive it to pick you up on your discharge day. Besides the car, I can grant you one other condition, then I'll have to think carefully about it." Chapter 91. Are they my nephew and niece? These past few days, Jiang Yao left the three little ones at their grandmother's house. As for herself, she regularly checked on Fu Chuji's condition. Due to the success of this surgery, many patients with similar conditions have been flocking to the research institute seeking treatment. As a result, Jiang Yao has been exceptionally busy lately. That morning, she visited Fu Chuji at the hospital as usual. At this moment, Fu Chuji's hand still couldn't move. "Sister-in-law, when exactly will my hand be able to move again? It's really so inconvenient," Fu Chuji said with a worried expression. Jiang Yao gently lifted his right hand, examined it carefully, and reassured him, "Just endure a few more days. I think it's recovering quite well. You can start rehabilitation training in 2 days." Before Jiang Yao could finish her sentence, the ward door suddenly burst open as Gigi came charging in like a little cannonball, tightly hugging Jiang Yao's legs while cooing, "Mommy, Mommy, she missed you so much." Xiaojing and Yuyu quickly followed into the room. Tang Yuro hurriedly explained, "Sister Yao, these three little ones ran to the research institute's entrance, clamoring to see you. I happened to spot them when I arrived at the institute, so I brought them along." Jiang Yao smiled as she gathered the children into her arms, her eyes filled with adoration and tenderness. She looked at Tang Yuro and said, "Thank you." Fu Chuji lay on the hospital bed, his eyes wide open as he stared in disbelief at the scene before him. His intact left hand trembled slightly as he stammered, "Sister-in-law, please, are they my little nephews and niece?" Jiang Yao paused slightly upon hearing this but quickly regained her composure. She gently patted the three little ones on their heads and said softly, "Sweethearts, could you go out and play for a while? Mommy still has some things to take care of, but I'll come find you soon, okay?" The children nodded obediently and answered in unison, "Okay." Then they skipped out of the ward, following Tang Yuro. Jiang Yao watched them leave before turning around, dragging a stool to the bedside. And slowly sitting down, she took a deep breath, fixed her gaze on Fu Chuji, and spoke with determination, "Chuji, can we not tell Fu Yanli about this?" Fu Chuji was still in shock, his face filled with conflict. "Sis-in-law, my brother is the father after all. Are you really not going to let him know?" He never would have imagined that his sister-in-law had secretly given birth to triplets. This was simply unbelievable. "I don't want to. Your brother and I are already divorced. And I'm living just fine raising the child on my own." Jiang Yao's voice was calm, but her eyes revealed a hint of determination. She knew this decision might be somewhat selfish. Fu Chuji's face showed hesitation, but after a long internal struggle, he nodded. To him, his sister-in-law was his benefactor. Without her, how could his surgery have been successful? "All right, sister-in-law, I promise you, if I tell my brother, may my hand forever." Fu Chuji gritted his teeth as he spoke. As if casting a dire curse upon himself, Jiang Yao quickly stopped him, saying, "Stop, there's no need to say such things. I believe you." She knew that although Fu Chuji might seem unreliable, his character was actually good. Once he gave his word, he would surely keep it. "Sister-in-law, can I ask you a question?" Fu Chuji hesitated for a moment before finally speaking up. "Go ahead and ask." Jiang Yao smiled as she looked at him. "Did you only find out about the baby after divorcing my brother?" Fu Chuji's eyes were filled with curiosity and confusion. Jiang Yao gently shook her head and said, "No, it was after I found out I was pregnant that I made up my mind to get a divorce." "Why is that?" Fu Chuji asked with a puzzled expression, pressing for an answer in utter bewilderment. Jiang Yao remained silent for a long time before finally speaking up. "Because I feel that Fu Yanli and I aren't suited for each other. Forcing the two of us together would be rather pointless." At that very moment, Fu Yanli, who had been standing outside the door about to enter, froze upon hearing Jiang Yao's words. His raised hand slowly lowered. He had only come today to visit Fu Chuji, never expecting to overhear Jiang Yao say such things unintentionally. A bitter smile tugged at the corners of Fu Yanli's lips as his left hand weakly clenched into a loose fist. His body leaned unconsciously against the wall. "Mr. Fu, are you here to visit your brother? Why don't you go in?" Cheng Yifeng, who happened to be passing by, noticed Fu Yanli standing at the door and asked. Perhaps because Cheng Yifeng spoke a bit too loudly, both Jiang Yao and Fu Chuji inside the hospital room clearly heard it. Their expressions stiffened simultaneously. "Yeah, just got here." Fu Yanli responded to Cheng Yifeng with a cold expression, then raised his hand and gently knocked on the hospital room door. Fu Chuji quickly replied, "Come in." Jiang Yao silently lifted her gaze, her eyes resting on Fu Yanli's impassive face. Just as she had seen it countless times before, he probably didn't hear the conversation she just had with Fu Chuji. Fu Yanli entered the room and gently placed the insulated lunchbox he was carrying on the nearby table. "You two chat first, I'll step out for now," Jiang Yao said softly, her tone calm. Before turning to leave, Fu Chuji quickly spoke up. "Sis-in-law, don't worry, I've already memorized all the precautions you mentioned." Jiang Yao paused, turned back to look at Fu Chuji, and gave a gentle smile with a slight nod. Fu Yanli keenly sensed a subtle atmosphere between the two, and he was extremely curious about the topic they had just discussed. What had they talked about that made Jiang Yao say those words? After Jiang Yao left the room, Fu Yanli casually asked, as if it were nothing, "What were you two talking about earlier?" Fu Chuji thought to himself that he absolutely must not reveal what his sister-in-law had told him, so he feigned calmness and replied, "Oh, just some casual chit-chat, I don't really remember the details, bro." However, Fu Chuji was actually filled with nervousness and guilt inside. He didn't even dare to look Fu Yanli in the eye, afraid that he might give himself away. Fu Chuji couldn't help but marvel inwardly that he had become the only person in the Fu family who knew this secret. Although his elder brother excelled in every aspect, he remained completely unaware of the fact that he had triplets, kept in the dark all this time. A trace of sympathy for Fu Yanli welled up in Fu Chuji's heart. He silently gazed at Fu Yanli, his eyes revealing complex emotions. "What's wrong?" Noticing Fu Chuji's unusual expression, Fu Yanli slightly furrowed his brows and asked with confusion, "Why are you looking at me with such a strange gaze?" "Nothing, bro. I'm just a little hungry." Fu Chuji quickly made up an excuse to brush it off, trying to divert Fu Yanli's attention. "Your mom stewed lotus root and pig trotter soup, said it's to nourish the form with the form." Chapter 92, Uncle Fu. While drinking the soup, Fu Chuji pondered for a long time before finally gathering the courage to ask, "Bro, between you and sister-in-law, is there any chance you two might get back together?" However, until Fu Yanli left, Fu Chuji still didn't get the answer to that question. Sigh, what a pity, it would be great if Big Brother could win sister-in-law back, Fu Chuji murmured to himself. Just then, the door of the hospital room was gently pushed open, leaving only a small crack, followed by three little heads squeezing in one after another. "Can we come in?" Xiao Jing asked softly. Fu Chuji looked at these three adorable children, feeling a surge of warmth in his heart. After all, they were his own nieces and nephews. So, he waved at the three little ones with his still intact left hand and said warmly, "Come on in." A minute later, the three children stood neatly in a row. Gigi spoke up with a serious expression. We heard what you and our mom were talking about just now. So, you're our uncle, right? That's right. You can call me Uncle Xiao Fu. Fu Chujing replied with a smile. Uncle Xiao Fu. Xiao Jing repeated the name. Yes, exactly. So clever. Fu Chujing nodded approvingly, then added, meeting you today was really too rushed. Next time, I'll definitely prepare gifts for you. Really? Then we'll remember that. Xiao Jing thought again, her little face scrunching up with hesitation. Forget it. What if Mom gets upset? Fu Chuji quickly reassured her. The gift is from me. It has nothing to do with your so-called father. Your mom won't be upset. Alright then. If Uncle Fu insists on giving it, we'll have to accept it. Xiao Jing wore a slightly troubled expression but nodded in the end. Meanwhile, Gigi blinked her big, watery eyes and timidly asked, Uncle Fu, can I ask you a question? Of course, go ahead and ask. Fu Chuji looked at Gigi's adorable expression, feeling his heart melt. How could his little niece be so cute? Uncle Fu, what are you drinking? It smells so good, Gigi said, while waving her hands repeatedly. I'm just asking. I don't mean I want to drink it. It's trotter soup. Fu Chuji patted his stomach, already full from drinking. His mom had stewed way too much. He scooped it out to drink from a small bowl. What was in the thermos remained untouched by him. This is trotter soup my mom stewed overnight. Would you like to try some? Gigi couldn't help but swallow her saliva. The trotters had been stewed to such tenderness that the meat would fall off the bones at the slightest touch. Fu Chujing carefully minced the meat into small pieces to make it easier for the children to eat. He could only use his left hand, so his movements were a bit stiff. Thank you, Uncle Fu. With that, they scooped up the meat and put it into their mouths. The meat instantly melted, its texture delicate and tender, with no greasy sensation at all. For these three little ones, this was their first time trying trotters as food. Plus, food always tastes better when it's cooked by someone else. It's so delicious. Even the soup is amazing. Uncle Fu, your mom is truly amazing. I'm glad you like it. If you think it's delicious, you can come find me every day from now on. That way, you can enjoy it every day. Really, can we? The children's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Of course. Besides, I can't finish all this food by myself. It's lucky you're here to share it with me today. Otherwise it would have gone to waste, Fu Chujing said with a smile. She suddenly felt her own importance. She took another big bite of meat, as if demonstrating to everyone that she would never let food go to waste. Fu Chuji picked up his phone and called his mother. Hey, Mom, the pig's trotter soup you made is absolutely delicious. Could you bring me some other tasty dishes tomorrow? You rascal, since when did you start loving my cooking so much? Alright, I'll make some more and bring it to you tomorrow. Mom, make a lot more. Fu Chuji couldn't help but emphasize one last time. After the three little ones finished every last bite of the food, Fu Chuji pulled out a few Switch consoles from the drawer. Do you want to play some games? These were brought along to pass the time in case the hospital stay got too boring. Sure enough. Xiao Jing and Yo-Yo's eyes instantly lit up. We want to play. The two nodded in unison. And Gigi then spoke up. Then I'll just watch you guys play. Uncle Xiao Fu, is your hand okay? Can you still play? Don't worry. Even with just one hand, it's no problem at all, Fu Chuji said confidently. How could he, with one hand, not be a match for two kids? No way. Fu Chuji picked a game suitable for everyone to play together, and the three of them formed a team. He thought that playing games together could quickly bring him closer to his little nephews. As it turned out, this was indeed the case at first, and everything went smoothly, but as they played on, Fu Chuji began to feel somewhat overwhelmed. Wait for me a bit. You too, Uncle can't quite keep up with your pace. How did I die again? Meanwhile, Xiao Jing and Yu Yu worked together seamlessly, their nimble maneuvers allowing them to dominate the game effortlessly. After the round ended, Fu Chuji stared wide-eyed at his two young nephews, his face full of suspicion. After a long pause, he finally managed to squeeze out a sentence through gritted teeth. Are you really playing this for the first time? The two exchanged glances and nodded in agreement. Yu Yu, with an innocent expression, spoke up. Actually, This game is quite simple, Uncle Fu. You can only use one hand to play, so it's perfectly normal that you can't keep up with our speed. Again, I refuse to believe this. Fu Chuji was instantly fired up by the kid's words. His fighting spirit ignited. However, before he could finish speaking, a cold and stern voice came from outside the door. What's the point of coming? Aren't you ashamed of losing to kids? Don't you know the condition of your hand? No more playing today. The switch is confiscated. Tang Yuro crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe with a sharp gaze. With swift movements, she collected all the gaming consoles, then turned to the three children with a gentle smile. If you still want to play, you can go to the office. This uncle's skills are terrible. Don't let him rub off on you. Hey, Fu Chuji flared up instantly. What do you mean by that? Insulting me in front of my nieces and nephews? You're ruining my reputation. Tang Yuro ignored him completely. Listen, kids, let me tell you something today. Playing with noobs too often will only drag you down. The three little ones nodded in confusion. Alright, go find your mom now. Chapter 93. Do you have a date today? After they left, Tang Yuro gently placed a medicine bottle beside Fu Chuji and carefully reminded him. This medicine needs to be taken twice a day, 2 pills each time. Make sure to take it on time. Fu Chuji extended his left hand, attempting to twist open the medicine bottle cap with force, but due to his injury, his movements appeared somewhat strained and clumsy. At that moment, he suddenly looked up and happened to catch a faint, almost imperceptible hint of amusement in Tang Yuro's eyes. That smile seemed to mock his current disheveled state, stirring a wave of displeasure within him. Tang Yuro keenly noticed the shift in Fu Chuji's mood. She swiftly took the medicine bottle from his hand, deftly twisted open the cap, and then poured out 2 pills onto it. Thank you. Fu Chuji's voice carried a hint of gloom. Without hesitation, he poured both pills into his mouth at once. However, these pills were not coated with sugar, so they quickly dissolved in his mouth, releasing an intense bitterness that instantly filled Fu Chuji's entire oral cavity. Fu Chuji couldn't bear the bitter taste and couldn't help but retch. Tang Yuro reacted swiftly, immediately covering Fu Chuji's mouth with her hand while applying slight pressure to tilt his chin upward, helping the pill pass smoothly through his throat into his stomach. Only after confirming that Fu Chuji had successfully swallowed the pill did Tang Yuro feel relieved enough to release her hand, pouring a glass of warm water and placing it in his grasp. Although this medicine is indeed quite bitter, its production process is extremely complex and laborious. So we absolutely must not waste it, Tang Yuro said softly. Fu Chuji tilted his head back and gulped down an entire glass of water before barely suppressing the bitter taste rising from the back of his tongue. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Fu Chuji complained with a face full of resentment. Tang Yuro curled her lips slightly, teasing him with a half-smile. How could I have guessed that a grown man like you couldn't handle a little bitterness? Since Fu Chuji had already taken his medicine, Tang Yuro prepared to leave, informing him. If there's nothing else, I'll be going now. I'm off work early today. Sister Yarrow is quite busy, so if you have any other issues later, you can contact Dr. Cheng. It was only then that Fu Chuji noticed Tang Yuro's attire was completely different from usual. She wasn't wearing her typical white lab coat, but instead a fresh and elegant white dress, with light makeup on her face, making her almost unrecognizable compared to her usual appearance. Could it be that you have a date tonight? Fu Chuji asked curiously. Is it with your boyfriend? Nothing set in stone yet. See you at the hospital tomorrow then. Tang Yuro walked with light steps, clearly in an exceptionally cheerful mood. In the office, Mom, are you coming back to Grandma's house with us today? The children looked at Jiang Yao with hopeful eyes. Now, Fu Chuji's condition has stabilized, and there are no other urgent matters to attend to. Jiang Yao smiled and replied, I'll go with you after I finish work. Great. Hearing this answer, the children cheered with joy. Ji excitedly hugged Jiang Yao's arm and asked coquettishly, Mom, can we come again tomorrow? Jiang Yao hesitated for a moment, knowing that once she immersed herself in work, she might not have time to take care of them. But seeing the sincere look in the children's eyes, she couldn't bear to refuse, so she gently said, Well, sweetheart, Mommy might be very busy with work and won't have much time to take care of you, however. Gigi sensibly hurried to say, It's okay, Mom, we'll be good and definitely won't disturb you. Jiang Yaro patted Gigi's head and softly agreed. Alright, at 5 in the afternoon, Jiang Yaro finished the day's tasks and took the 3 little ones back home. By 7 in the evening, Fu Chuji, lying uncomfortably in the hospital bed, couldn't bear it any longer and finally got up, starting to stroll down the long corridor. Suddenly, he noticed that Tang Yuro's office was still lit. He couldn't help but feel puzzled, as he remembered that Tang Yuro had left early. Fu Chujing walked towards Tang Yuro's office and gently knocked on the door. Come in, came Tang Yuro's voice from inside. Fu Chuji pushed the door open and walked in, only to be surprised to find Tang Yuro casually sitting on the floor with one leg propped up, holding a half-empty bottle of alcohol in her hand. Why are you back? Weren't you going on a date? Seeing Tang Yuro in this state, Fu Chuji asked with concern. Tang Yuro's expression was extremely unpleasant as she snapped back. What date? Screw that. Fu Chuji stepped closer and caught a faint whiff of smoke on Tang Yuro. He frowned and continued, Did you get stood up? Tang Yuro snorted coldly. Mate, so I'm back to work overtime. I love overtime. Fu Chujing sat down beside Tang Yuro and comforted her. Don't be too upset. Since he treated you like that, you should have scolded him harshly. Why bottle up your anger alone? I waited there for 2 hours, called him, and he said something came up last minute. Tang Yuro said calmly. Scold him? How? I've been chasing after him for 2 years, and I haven't even confessed yet. Didn't expect you to be such a… Fu Chuji hadn't finished speaking when Tang Yuro shot him a glance, and he immediately fell silent. Suddenly, Tang Yuro's face abruptly moved closer, so close that Fu Chuji could feel her breath. You must think I deserve this, right? It seems I have no appeal to men. He treats me like a buddy, but every time I see him, I wear the dresses he likes. Fu Chuji's breath hitched. Before he could react, Tang Yuro had already pulled away. That's not it either, he said softly. After that, Fu Chujing didn't speak again, simply staying quietly by her side. Chapter 94, Gigi is light as a feather. In the following days, the 3 little ones continued to visit Fu Chujing's hospital room frequently, but it was Fu Chuji's mother who first noticed something unusual. One day, she called Fu Yanli. Hello, Yanli. I feel like Chuji has been acting a bit strange these past few days. A hint of concern crept into Fu Yanli's voice. Oh, what's wrong with him? Is there a problem with his hand? No, his hand is fine, but his appetite has suddenly increased a lot. Fu Yanli couldn't help but chuckle. Is this even a question? Don't overthink it yourself, however, Fu Chuji's mother insisted. But these past few days, Chuji has been asking me to bring him meals, and the portions are way too much for him alone. I suspect he might have a girlfriend keeping him company in the ward. When I asked him, he wouldn't say. Thinking you're closer to him, I came to ask if you knew anything. Don't worry, I'll go check on him later. Since he had already agreed, he decided to make a trip to the research institute. When Fu Yanli arrived at the research institute, he happened to see Tang Yuro. Fu Yanli called out to her. Hello, is Dr. Jiang here today? Sister Yaro isn't here, she's out. If President Fu needs to speak with her, you can tell me. Oh, just asking casually. Alright, I'll get busy then. As he looked up, Fu Yanli caught sight of a petite figure a few meters ahead. He strode forward with purpose and cautiously called out. Gigi. Jiang Ji heard someone calling her name. She turned around, and the moment she saw Fu Yanli, a glimmer of joy flickered in her eyes. Without hesitation, she stretched out her arms, eager for the handsome uncle to pick her up. Yet, in the instant after that fleeting joy, she suddenly remembered that this handsome uncle might actually be her father, and that her mother didn't like him. At this thought, Gigi's arms slowly dropped to her sides. Fu Yanli noticed the subtle change in the child's expression. He crouched down and asked gently, What's wrong, Gigi? Don't you remember uncle? Gigi clasped her little hands behind her back, speaking with a hint of shy unease. I do. Then what's the matter? Who made Gigi unhappy? Gigi, being asked by Fu Yanli in such a manner, immediately puffed up with anger and replied, Someone said Gigi is fat. Fu Yanli let out a light chuckle. laughing out loud. "Oh, who said that?" "It was Uncle Cheng. He said Gigi has gotten heavier. Then let Uncle hold you to see if Gigi is heavy or not. Would Gigi be willing?" Fu Yanli extended his arms. Hearing Fu Yanli ask this, Gigi hesitated for a moment, thinking to herself, "Let Dad hold me for a bit. It'll be a good chance to see if I'm really heavy or not." After all, Uncle Cheng must have been teasing her. So, she took a step forward toward Fu Yanli. Fu Yanli carefully extended his hands, gently lifting the adorable little chubby bundle, then gave her a little bounce. "Not heavy at all. Gigi is light as a feather. Is it true?" Gigi blinked her big eyes, looking at Fu Yanli with a puzzled expression. "Of course it's true. Uncle never lies," Fu Yanli said gently, to prove he wasn't lying. Fu Yanli actually tossed the little girl into the air and then caught her steadily. Giggle 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 giggle. At the very moment she was tossed into the air, Gigi burst into delighted laughter. As she descended, she tightly wrapped her arms around Fu Yanli's neck and cried out sweetly, "Dad, Uncle, this is so fun, so exciting." Seeing that Gigi wasn't the least bit scared but rather having a great time, Fu Yanli cooperated with her seamlessly, continuing to toss her as they walked. And so, Fu Yanli carried Gigi into Fu Chuji's hospital room. "Brother," Fu Chuji exclaimed in surprise at the sight of his brother holding Gigi, his voice loud enough to be heard down the hallway. Meanwhile, Fu Yanli saw Xiao Jing and Yu Yu sitting on either side of Fu Chuji's hospital bed, the three of them playing games together, creating a scene of perfect harmony. "Brother, why are you holding Gigi?" Fu Chuji wondered silently to himself. Had his brother already found out? "I was about to ask you the same thing. Why are they in your hospital room?" Fu Yanli frowned slightly, looking at his younger brother with confusion. Fu Chuji was momentarily at a loss for words, unsure how to respond. At this moment, little Jing cleverly chimed in, "Because my mom is too busy with work, we came to play with Uncle Fu instead." "Oh, does your mom work here?" Fu Yanli continued to inquire. Little Jing nodded vigorously in confirmation. Yes. Did your mom switch jobs from the Fu Corporation to here?" Fu Yanli recalled the last time he met them near the company. And Xiao Jing had mentioned that their mother was an employee of the Fu Corporation. He never expected her to change jobs in such a short time. Hearing his brother's question, Fu Chuji grew so nervous that his palms began to sweat. He quickly chimed in with Xiao Jing's words, saying, Yes, I heard their mother mention it." But inwardly, he breathed a sigh of relief, grateful that his brother hadn't noticed anything unusual. Fu Yanli thought the career shift was quite significant, however. He didn't dwell on it, as everyone has their own choices and paths to follow. From this brief conversation, Fu Chuji confirmed that his brother still didn't know about his relationship with Gigi, and a heavy weight finally lifted from his heart. He waved to Gigi and said, "Gigi, do you want some fruit tart? I saved it especially for you." Gigi swallowed hard and murmured, I don't like it anymore now. Didn't you love it just yesterday?" The man's voice carried a hint of confusion. Gigi slightly turned her head away, trying hard not to look at the tempting fruit tart. Seeing this, Fu Yanli coaxed softly, "Gigi isn't the least bit chubby. If you want to eat it, go ahead." He thought to himself that a little girl with some baby fat was quite adorable, especially at her age when she still had that youthful plumpness. Once she grows a bit taller and her figure starts to lengthen, she'll naturally become slender and graceful. Then I'll just have a tiny bit." Jiangxi gestured with her small hands. Fu Yanli smiled and gently placed the little girl on the seat. Gigi was nibbling on the fruit tart in small bites. Fu Yanli turned to Fu Chuji and asked, "Have they been having meals with you these past few days?" Fu Chuji nodded and replied, "Yes, brother. Why did you suddenly come over today? You have a big appetite, and your mother thought it might be because you have a girlfriend keeping you company. So she specifically asked me to come check on you." Fu Yanli explained with a smile, "My mother's imagination is truly something else." Fu Chuji couldn't help but exclaim. Fu Yanli keenly noticed that the two little boys' attitude toward him had changed from before. They seemed to want to get close to him. Yet for some reason, they were reluctant to communicate. After Gigi finished eating, Xiao Jing and Yu Yu took her outside, saying they didn't want to disturb the adults' conversation. Fu Chuji also noticed and felt his brother was quite pitiful. He subtly asked, "Brother, don't you think you two look somewhat alike? Chapter 95, can't you just comfort her? Others have said the same thing. Fu Chuji gave a dry laugh. What a coincidence. How's your hand doing? Fu Yanli asked, hearing this. Fu Chuji flexed his wrist a few times. I'm doing rehab now, should be discharged soon. After staying in the hospital room for an hour, Fu Yanli prepared to leave. Fu Chuqing insisted on seeing him to the door. Take good care of your hand, don't trouble your sister-in-law too much, if anything comes up, call me. Fu Yanli couldn't help but remind his brother before leaving. However, just as they reached the door, they unexpectedly ran into Jiang Yao and Song Wonjia, who had just returned. Upon seeing Fu Yanli, Jiang Yao's smile instantly froze on her face, clearly taken by surprise. Fu Chuji cursed his luck inwardly. Why did he have to run into them of all times? He turned to look at his brother and noticed that Fu Yanli's expression had also darkened. Song Wenchen had also spotted Fu Yanli, but he seemed entirely unfazed. Instead, he said to Jiang Yao, I won't go in then. I'll just see you off here. With that, he handed the exquisitely wrapped gift box in his hand to Jiang Yao. Thank you. Feel free to message me on WeChat if you have any questions later, Jiang Yao said with a smile as she politely accepted the gift box. See you next time. With a wave and a soft voice, Jiang Yao added, goodbye. Then, her gaze fixed intently on Song Wenchen's gradually receding figure, silently watching for several long seconds. Suddenly, a gloomy voice came from above. They've already gone far away, why can't you take your eyes off them? Jiang Yao felt somewhat displeased and retorted irritably, I just like looking, what's it to you? Fu Chujie quickly stepped between the two, trying to ease the tension, and hastily mediated, brother, sister-in-law, stop arguing, wouldn't it be better to get along peacefully? Fu Yanli lowered his gaze and casually glanced at the exquisite gift box in Jiang Yao's hand, which contained various kinds of pastries. The corners of his lips lifted slightly as he asked with a faint, ambiguous smile. Does he need to be so attentive? Jiang Yao had no desire to argue with him further and turned to leave without another word. This box of pastries was actually brought back by Song Wonjia as a souvenir from his business trip to the south. Previously, after she finished treating Shen Qingxi, Song Wonjia had specifically brought over a box, saying he wanted her to try them. Watching his sister-in-law walk away, Fu Chuji could only look helplessly at Fu Yanli and sigh, brother. You really should learn to hold your tongue. No wonder sister-in-law doesn't want to talk to you. Anyone would be driven away by your words. Can't you try to learn how to make her happy? Fu Yanli sneered and retorted, someone who doesn't even have a girlfriend. What right do you have to lecture me? After speaking, Fu Yanli paused mid-step as he was about to leave, then changed direction and headed toward Jiang Yao's office. What are you doing here? Jiang Yao looked at him with displeasure. As the patient's family member, I'm here to discuss Fu Chujie's rehabilitation with you. Let me in. I'll leave after we talk. When Jiang Yao heard these words, a hint of hesitation welled up in her heart, but in the end, she slowly loosened her grip. Fu Yanli keenly sensed her wavering and, without hesitation, reached out to place his hand on the back of her head. Then, leaning down, he firmly pressed his lips against hers. At the same time, he skillfully pushed Jiang Yao inward, freeing one hand to swiftly close the door. Instantly, Jiang Yao was pinned against the door, her body pressed tightly against its cold surface. Let go of me. Jiang Yao attempted to resist, pushing against Fu Yanli's shoulders with her hands. However, the moment she opened her mouth, it inadvertently gave Fu Yanli the perfect opportunity. His tongue swiftly invaded her mouth, eagerly seeking her response. Jiang Yao's hands began to struggle, and what was meant to be a push turned into a series of light taps against his back. But Fu Yanli firmly grasped her wrists, pinned them above her head, and pressed them against the door, leaving her with no chance to escape. After a few minutes, Fu Yanli finally released her lips. At that moment, a subtle tension lingered in the air. Sorry, Fu Yanli said. Jiang Yao glared at him fiercely, cursing in her heart, what a pretentious bastard. Half an hour later, Fu Yanli sent someone to deliver pastries from a well-known brand. The pastries were delivered to everyone at the research institute, with special emphasis that they were gifted in Dr. Jiang's name. This gesture sparked widespread discussion, drawing envious and curious gazes toward Jiang Yao. Chapter 96, Su Jinyu's mother. After a week of rehabilitation, Fu Chuji was finally able to be discharged from the hospital. At the same time, Professor Jiyu also took Jiang Yao to City A Hospital. Due to the close collaborative relationship between the research institute and the hospital, whenever the hospital encountered some challenging and difficult-to-treat cases, they would seek assistance from the research institute. It was Director Wang who was in charge of receiving them. From their interaction, it was clear they were very familiar with each other. As soon as they met, Director Wang couldn't wait to say, "Old Jiyu, you're finally here. Come quickly, I have several patients waiting." Professor Jiyu responded with a smile, "I've been extremely busy lately, Old Wang. You're assigning me work the moment I arrive, really not holding back at all." At this point, Director Wang glanced behind Professor Jiyu, quickly scanning Jiang Yao before looking away. "I thought Dr. Jiang would be coming with you. Didn't you say you'd bring her along? Here we are. This must be Xiao Jiang." Professor Jiyu smiled and pointed at Jiang Yao. Jiang Yao took a step forward and greeted politely, "Hello. Director Wang, Professor Jiyu has often mentioned you." Director Wang looked at Jiang Yao with some surprise and remarked, I truly didn't expect Dr. Jiang to be so young. What remarkable talent at such a young age. Truly impressive." Afterward, the three of them walked and chatted together. Heading toward Director Wang's office, the atmosphere very harmonious. A middle-aged woman nearby spotted Jiang Yao and, as if grasping at a lifeline, immediately rushed up to her. The sudden situation left all three somewhat stunned. The middle-aged woman stared fixedly at Jiang Yao, her eyes filled with pleading. "Are you?" Jiang Yao asked in confusion. The woman suddenly fell to her knees with a thud, crying out in tears, "Please, I beg you, help my daughter. Hey, get up quickly. Why are you kneeling?" Jiang Yao was startled, but as soon as the woman spoke, she quickly recognized her as the mother she had encountered outside the research institute earlier, a nurse nearby. Snapping out of her daze, hurried over to help her up. However, the woman stubbornly refused to rise, sobbing, "I won't get up unless you promise to save my daughter." Jiang Yao sighed helplessly and patiently explained, "Auntie, what you're doing not only creates a bad impression but also won't solve the problem. Since your daughter is already receiving treatment at this hospital, the doctors will surely do their best to save her. Please trust in their professional expertise." The woman, however, shook her head as tears streamed down her face. Fixing Jiang Yao with a pleading gaze, she choked out, "No, the doctors here can't cure my daughter. Young lady, you're from the research institute. You must have a way, right? Please, I beg you, help me. I'll do anything if it means saving my daughter." Jiang Yao first glanced at Professor Jiyu beside her. Seeing his slight nod of approval, she then turned to reassure the woman. "All right, Auntie, please rest assured. We'll go see your daughter right away. Please stand up first." Hearing Jiang Yao's words, the woman's face showed a mix of hope and doubt as she pressed, "Really, you're really willing to treat my daughter?" Jiang Yao once again gave a positive reply. "Of course it's true." A glimmer of joy flashed in the woman's eyes as she quickly said, "That's wonderful. She's in the ward just ahead. Please follow me." Thus, the three of them followed the woman to the front of a ward. After stopping, the woman said apologetically, "I'd like to go in first to see if my daughter is awake. If she's sleeping, being disturbed might upset her." Jiang Yao displayed excellent composure and patience, smiling as she replied, "It's all right. Please go ahead and take a look inside first. Thank you very much for your understanding," the woman said softly in gratitude before carefully pushing the door open and tiptoeing inside. At this moment, Director Wang turned to ask Jiang Yao, "Xiao Jiang, do you know this lady?" Jiang Yao gently shook her head and answered, "I don't know her. I just happened to encounter her once before when she was seeking help at the research institute's gate." Before long, the woman came out of the ward and beckoned them inside. "Come in quickly." Upon entering the ward, Jiang Yao was surprised to find that the woman lying on the hospital bed was none other than Su Jinyu. Su Jinyu was equally shocked to see Jiang Yao walk in. Her emotions suddenly became extremely agitated. Trembling, She pointed a finger at Jiang Yao, her throat emitting choked sobs, but she couldn't utter a single coherent sentence. Su Jinyu's mother hugged her in a daze, softly comforting her. "What's wrong, Yu? This is the doctor who came specifically to see you. You need to be a good girl and listen, okay?" However, Su Jinyu showed no appreciation and forcefully pushed her mother away, frantically grabbing anything within reach and hurling them violently at Jiang Yao. Jiang Yao nimbly dodged to the side, and the objects clattered loudly as they hit the floor. A nearby nurse quickly stepped forward to grab Su Jinyu's hands, trying to calm her down. Don't be agitated, please stay calm." But at this moment, Su Jinmai seemed completely deaf to the outside world, her entire being consumed by a state of frenzy. Jiang Yao exited the hospital room. In the end, the nurses had no other choice. To ensure Su Jinmai's physical condition remained stable, they had to administer a sedative, which gradually calmed her down. After the room returned to tranquility, Professor Ji Yu softly asked Jiang Yao, "Xiao Jiang, do you know this patient?" Jiang Yao nodded silently, then replied, "Director Wang, let's go see the patient you mentioned earlier." At the end of the day's work, Jiang Yao let Professor Ji Yu leave first. While she returned to Su Jinyu's ward, Su Jinyu's mother sat there, utterly distraught. "Auntie, is there no cure for my daughter? Others can't treat her, but I can cure her, because..." Jiang Yao paused, as if making a firm decision. "I'm the one who made her this way." Chapter 97. You're going back to your ex. Why? Why would you harm my daughter? The woman hysterically grabbed Jiang Yao by the collar, as if she wanted to tear the person before her to pieces. Jiang Yao didn't back down at all. She straightened her posture, looked directly into the woman's eyes, and said in a firm and icy tone, "Considering what your daughter did, sparing her life was already an act of mercy on my part." Jiang Yao was tall and slender, standing significantly taller than the woman, at this moment. She looked down at the other party from a commanding height. "Shut your mouth," the woman shouted furiously, raising her hand to deliver a fierce slap across Jiang Yao's face. However, Jiang Yao reacted with lightning speed, swiftly grabbing the woman's wrist and holding it firmly in place, rendering her completely immobile. "I didn't know you were Su Jinyu's mother before, but since I've already promised you, the medicine will naturally be delivered to you on time. However, you must keep your daughter under control and prevent her from harming others again." Jiang Yao released her grip and issued a cold warning. After saying these words, Jiang Yao turned and walked away without looking back, leaving the woman standing there, trembling with anger. Jiang Yao had no idea what her senior brother Yun Shu had been busy with since arriving in City A. Since the last time he left Jiang Yao's home, the two had not seen each other again. Now, Yun Shu suddenly appeared before Jiang Yao and asked if she would accompany him to an auction. Jiang Yao looked at Yun Shu with confusion and said, "Senior, when did you start taking an interest in auctions?" She couldn't understand it at all. Yun Shu usually either immersed himself in lab research or went straight home to rest, living a simple and routine life like a retired official. How could he suddenly become interested in auctions? Yun Shu seemed somewhat guilty, deliberately avoiding Jiang Yao's gaze, then feigned composure as he replied, "Well, an auction is naturally for spending money, so, are you going or not?" Hearing this, Jiang Yao immediately nodded without hesitation. I'm going. Since senior brother has invited me, of course I'll go." "But when exactly is the auction?" "Tonight," Yun Shu answered in a low voice. "What, tonight?" Jiang Yao couldn't help raising her voice in surprise. Such an important thing. "Why are you only telling me now, and why couldn't you have informed me earlier?" Faced with Jiang Yao's sudden outburst of emotion, Yun Shu felt utterly perplexed. "I thought I had given you enough advance notice. There are still 5 hours until the auction officially begins." "Ah, senior brother. Don't you understand that girls need time to get ready before going out, from choosing outfits and matching accessories to styling hair and applying makeup? Every step is essential. Do you have any idea how long all that takes?" Jiang Yao was nearly driven mad by Yun Shu's clueless, straight male behavior. Realizing his oversight, Yun Shu quickly apologized to Jiang Yao. "Sorry, Yao, that was my mistake. Forget it, just be more careful next time." Jiang Yao had meticulously selected a white satin fishtail gown for the auction, featuring a blend of classical and modern tailoring, and adorned it with dazzling ruby jewelry. She had elegantly pinned up her lustrous black hair, presenting an image of both grace and sophistication. Yunshu wore a conventionally styled black suit, appearing composed and understated. Arm in arm with Yunshu, Jiang Yao stepped into the venue right on time. However, just as they had sat down, they heard a commotion behind them. Jiang Yao turned around curiously and saw Fu Yanli being surrounded by the crowd. It seemed that no matter where he was, he always became the center of attention. As if he was born with a unique charm, Fu Yanli also didn't expect to meet Jiang Yao at the auction, so without hesitation, he strode in the direction where Jiang Yao was. Jiang Yao's heart instantly tightened with nervousness. She simply couldn't fathom what Fu Yanli intended to do by approaching her in such a public setting. Fu Yanli exuded an aura of noble aloofness, his every movement radiating the elegant demeanor of an aristocratic young master. When he reached Jiang Yao's side, he unexpectedly bent down and gently adjusted the hem of her dress for her. Jiang Yao immediately froze in place, utterly unable to comprehend Fu Yanli's intentions behind such an action. She lowered her head, her gaze just landing on Fu Yanli's slender, fair hand, as exquisite as fine jade, which was now lightly touching the hem of her skirt. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, his movements were slow and graceful, as if he didn't feel such behavior was beneath his status at all. All eyes were fixed on this spot, and Jiang Yao tried her best to remain composed. When Fu Yanli stood up, she politely said, "Thank you, you're welcome," Fu Yanli replied. At that moment, a staff member nearby asked, "Mr. Fu, would you like us to move your seat over here?" Fu Yanli's voice was deep. "No need to trouble yourself." With that, he walked toward his own seat. The attendees at the auction were all distinguished and influential figures of high social standing. In such a setting, despite being utterly astonished by the scene unfolding before them, they all masked their reactions impeccably, showing no trace of surprise on their faces. Yet inwardly, they were baffled by young Master Fu's attitude toward this person. After Fu Yanli left, Jiang Yao let out a long sigh of relief as if a weight had been lifted, then sat down. Yunshu leaned in and whispered in her ear, "What's going on between you two now? Are you thinking of rekindling an old flame?" Jiang Yao replied with a cold expression, "Nothing's going on, same as before, senior. Stop gossiping about me. I'm more curious. Who are you buying things for at a jewelry auction?" Chapter 98. If you want it, come get it from me. Just an ordinary friend, that's all. TSK Jiang Yao looked unconvinced, but she could tell Yunshu didn't want to discuss the matter further, so she didn't press on. As the auction officially began, one precious piece of jewelry after another took the stage. However, Yunshu showed little interest in the first few jewelry pieces displayed. His purpose for attending the auction was very clear. He came specifically for the grand finale jewelry piece. Next, about to make its appearance is the final piece of jewelry in this auction, an exceptionally rare natural pearl triple-strand necklace dating back to the late 19th century. Its uniqueness lies in the classic three-layer pearl chain design, paired with a dazzling sun-shaped diamond clasp. The starting bid is 50 million yuan. Without hesitation, Yunshu called out, 60 million yuan. Other bidders were not to be outdone. Quickly joining the fierce bidding war, Yunshu bid again. 100 million yuan. Alright, the current highest bid has reached 100 million yuan. Is anyone willing to offer a higher price? 100 million. Going once. 100 million. Going twice. Just as Jiang Yao thought the necklace was about to be successfully auctioned off by Yunshu, a sudden voice rang out, 110 million. Jiang Yao instinctively turned her head, her gaze meeting Fu Yanli's directly. Yunshu clenched her teeth tightly and quickly responded, 120 million. After speaking, she couldn't help but whisper to Jiang Yao, "What's the deal with your ex-husband anyway?" 150 million. Fu Yanli pressed on relentlessly. Just as Yunshu was about to raise his bidding paddle, Jiang Yao quickly reached out to stop him, anxiously saying, "Senior, don't keep bidding." Her gaze was fixed on Fu Yanli not far ahead. And she could tell that Fu Yanli seemed determined to win that piece of jewelry. Jiang Yao knew all too well that, given her senior's financial resources, competing with Fu Yanli would be utterly futile. 150 million for the first time. The auctioneer's voice rang through the venue, carrying a hint of excitement and tension. Yun Shu frowned, his eyes revealing unwillingness, but he knew Jiang Yao was right, so he put down the sign in his hand. 150 million yuan for the second time. The auctioneer's tone gradually became more urgent. Jiang Yao let out a soft sigh. 150 million yuan for the third time. As the auctioneer's hammer fell, the entire venue erupted into a round of enthusiastic applause. Congratulations, President Fu, on successfully winning the final piece of precious jewelry. The auctioneer's excited voice echoed through the air. As the crowd turned their envious and congratulatory gazes towards Fu Yanli smiled faintly, standing up to nod in acknowledgement to those around him. However, when his gaze swept over Yun Shu, the smile at the corners of his lips carried a hint of provocation. After the auction concluded, the crowd gradually dispersed, and the venue slowly grew quiet. A message came in, and Jiang Yao clicked to read it. When she reached the door, she stopped and said to Yun Shu, "Senior, you go ahead. I just remembered there's something I need to take care of." Yun Shu frowned slightly, sounding concerned. "It's so late, what do you need to do? Maybe I should go with you." Jiang Yao quickly waved her hand and said playfully, "Oh, Senior, it's just nearby, very close, I can handle it myself. I'll head back right after I'm done. Don't worry about me." Seeing her resolute attitude, Yun Shu had no choice but to relent. "All right then, but you must remember to send me a message when you get home. So I know you've arrived safely." Okay." Jiang Yao nodded obediently in response. After Yun Shu turned and left, Jiang Yao didn't depart immediately. Instead, she stood there, lost in thought as she glanced around. It was the message Fu Yanli had just sent her. "If you want the content, come and get it from me." Jiang Yao turned around and walked back, searching for Fu Yanli's figure. As she reached a corner, suddenly a hand reached out, swiftly and firmly pulling her into an embrace. "Ah!" Jiang Yao let out a startled cry, her hands instinctively pressing against Fu Yanli's broad chest, her heartbeat rapidly accelerating. "You scared me to death." She steadied herself and took a step back. "How can you give me the necklace?" Jiang Yao composed herself and asked. However, Fu Yanli didn't answer her question directly. Instead, he countered, "First, tell me, what exactly is your relationship with that man?" Jiang Yao hesitated for a moment before deciding to fabricate an answer. He's my new boyfriend." But before she could finish speaking, Fu Yanli suddenly leaned down and lightly pecked her lips, cutting off what she was about to say next. "Don't kiss me." Jiang Yao pushed Fu Yanli away with force, causing him to bump into the wall behind him. Fu Yanli couldn't help but chuckle softly. "Then speak properly." "All right." Jiang Yao bit her lip, feeling a bit annoyed. "He's my senior brother." "Okay, you clearly knew my senior brother wanted this necklace. So why did you have to compete with him for it?" Fu Yanli didn't seem to mind at all, as he casually said, "The necklace can be yours, someone will deliver it to your home tonight." Upon hearing this, Jiang Yao didn't let her guard down but instead became even more vigilant. "What are your conditions?" she asked. She didn't believe for a second that Fu Yanli could be so kind-hearted. Fu Yanli's gaze, like a scorching flame, swept over Jiang Yao from head to toe. This brazen gaze made Jiang Yao feel a wave of nervousness and shyness. Jiang Yao hugged herself. "Don't even think about lusting after my body, overthinking it. I wasn't planning on that. This kind of thing, it's mutual consent, and both parties enjoy it. It's no fun if it's all about money or other means." Fu Yanli continued, "Grandma isn't feeling well, go keep her company. Here's the necklace, and I'll give you another 100 million. Chapter 99. Grandma, the act is overdone, really." Jiang Yao looked at Fu Yanli with suspicion, her eyes flickering with distrust. Fu Yanli gazed at her tenderly, his eyes filled with deep affection, and said softly, "I'm not lying to you." Hearing his words, Jiang Yao's doubts lessened slightly, but she still remained somewhat skeptical. Nevertheless, she nodded in agreement. That evening when she returned home, staff indeed delivered the necklace to her residence. Jiang Yao told Yun Shu about the matter and asked him to come pick it up when he had time. Yun Shu transferred the money for the necklace to Jiang Yao. The next day, Fu Yanli proactively sent Jiang Yao a message. When are you free? I'll pick you up to go to the old house together. At that moment, Jiang Yao was busy at the research institute. Seeing Fu Yanli's message, she replied, I might be working until 6 p.m. today. How about another day? Fu Yanli quickly replied, it's okay. I'll wait until you finish work. Alright. At exactly 6 o'clock, Jiang Yao walked out of the research institute on time and got into the car Fu Yanli had parked at the entrance. I'll transfer the money for the necklace to your card, Jiang Yao said, turning her head to look at Fu Yanli, who was driving. Hearing this, Fu Yanli slightly furrowed his brows. No need, we agreed that necklace was meant for you. No, I've already given the necklace to my senior brother. And he transferred the money for it to me, so this amount must be returned to you, Jiang Yao said firmly, pausing briefly before adding, as for the payment for accompanying Grandma, you still need to pay as agreed, although I was happy to do it willingly. This was our prior arrangement, whatever you say. Fu Yanli replied with a smile. Jiang Yao hadn't visited the old house in a long time, and for some reason, she felt inexplicably nervous at this moment. She clutched her handbag tightly, her knuckles turning white from the excessive force. What's wrong? Fu Yanli keenly noticed her unusual behavior and asked with concern. Jiang Yao's voice carried a rare hint of timidity. Maybe it's been too long since I last saw Grandma. I'm a little nervous. Will she blame me for not visiting her for so long? Don't overthink it. How could Grandma blame you? She'll be overjoyed that you're here to see her today. Let's go in. Fu Yanli reassured her. Jiang Yao responded softly. But the unease in her heart didn't lessen in the slightest. She took a deep breath and stepped forward into the old house. As soon as she entered the gate, Jiang Yao saw the elderly woman sitting in a wheelchair, being pushed toward her by Jean Ma. The old woman looked extremely frail, as if she didn't even have the strength to speak. Yao, you've finally come to visit this old woman. Hearing this, Jiang Yao quickly crouched down and leaned in, her face full of concern as she asked, Grandma, what's wrong with you? How did your health deteriorate so much that you need a wheelchair now? My dear Yao, it's been so long since you last visited your grandmother. The old lady sighed and continued, this old body of mine is still holding on, stubbornly clinging to life, just hoping to see you one more time. Before she could finish her words, a sudden fit of violent coughing interrupted the old lady's speech. It was Fu Yanli who was coughing. Seeing this, Jean Ma, who was standing nearby, quickly interjected, Yao, let's go inside first. But Grandma, Jiang Yao hesitated, her gaze fixed on the elderly woman. Yao, take a look, can you spot any changes in the living room compared to before? Jiang Yao was still half pushed into the house by Aunt Jean. Fu Yanli slowly wheeled the chair forward. He bent down and whispered softly into the old lady's ear. Granny, aren't you overacting a bit in this performance? The old lady, who had previously appeared sickly and weak, suddenly perked up with full energy and retorted loudly, You little rascal, don't ruin my act. Jiang Yao, concerned about her grandmother's health and unable to suppress her professional instincts, stepped forward and asked gently, Grandma, have you taken your medicine today? I just saw some herbal medicine in the kitchen. What? Grandma Fu seemed not to have heard clearly, wearing a puzzled expression. What did you say about the kitchen? Jean Ma, hurry and tell the chef to bring out the dishes. Yao must be starving. Got it, Auntie Jean responded briskly. Grandma Fu then turned to comfort Jiang Yao. Don't worry, Yao, the food will be ready soon. You doctors really have such demanding jobs. Jiang Yao felt helpless but could only comply for now. Alright, let's talk after dinner then. Fu Yanli was all too familiar with his grandmother's habit of pretending not to hear whenever she encountered topics she disliked, such as taking medicine or medical checkups, but at this moment, he chose not to call her out on it. Yao, I heard from Yanli that you went abroad for further studies in recent years. You probably won't be leaving City A anymore, right? Jiang Yao was taken aback, surprised that Fu Yanli had told his grandmother this version of the story. Probably, Jiang Yao answered vaguely, as even she herself wasn't sure how long she would stay in City A. As long as you two lovebirds are happy together, that's all that matters. Hearing these words, Jiang Yao looked at Fu Yanli in confusion. What's going on? Had Fu Yanli not told his grandmother that they were already divorced? After finishing the meal, Grandma Fu said, I'm a bit tired, Jean Ma. Take me to my room to rest. Yanli, you take Yao Yao for a walk. All right, Grandma. Auntie Jean pushed Grandma Fu away. While pushing, she asked, what do you think? Can the young master and his wife reconcile? Who can say for sure? I can only try my best to create opportunities for my grandson. Chapter 100, Living Together. Fu Yanli looked at Jiang Yao and explained softly, Grandma has always been very fond of you. I was afraid that suddenly telling her about our divorce would be too much for her to bear. So I kept it from her and never mentioned it. In reality, after Jiang Yao hadn't visited for a long time, Grandma probably already had an idea, but she chose to remain silent and didn't bring it up herself. I understand your concern. Jiang Yao nodded in agreement. In that case, let's act harmoniously in front of Grandma, so she can be happier. After all, she's getting older and isn't in good health. We shouldn't let her worry about us anymore. Hearing this, a flicker of gratitude passed through Fu Yanli's eyes as he said quietly, Thank you for your understanding. Jiang Yao smiled slightly and responded half-jokingly, No need to thank me, I've already taken your money, so of course I'll do a good job. As she finished speaking, Jiang Yao slowly raised her head, only for her gaze to unexpectedly collide with a pair of eyes as deep as a tranquil pool. Jiang Yao felt her cheeks instantly grow scalding hot, as if they had been roasted by fire. She hurriedly averted her eyes in panic, not daring to look any longer. For the rest of the time, Jiang Yao remained silent, as if afraid that speaking would shatter the awkward yet delicate atmosphere. Yao, I've already tidied up your room for you. You two should freshen up and get some rest soon. Aunt Jean said warmly as she saw the two return. Jiang Yao responded with a smile and accepted the arrangement of sharing a room without hesitation, showing no sign of resistance. All right. Thank you, Aunt Jean. Aunt Jean watched the young couple getting along so harmoniously with great joy and asked caringly, Would you like some late-night snacks? I can prepare them and bring them to you. Jiang Yao quickly waved her hand to decline. No need, Aunt Jean. I'm not hungry at all. Fu Yanli also chimed in. Yes. Auntie Jean, you've been busy all day and must be tired. You should rest early. All right then, that's fine. Auntie Jean nodded with a smile and turned to leave. The two of them walked up the stairs together and arrived at the bedroom door. Pushing it open, they found the pajamas already neatly laid out on the bed. Jiang Yao tried hard to suppress the slight awkwardness that had just arisen in her heart and asked softly, Would you like to shower first, or should I? Fu Yanli's lips curved slightly. You go first, I'll go after you finish showering. Okay. Jiang Yao nodded, picked up the pajamas placed by the bedside, and turned to walk into the bathroom. Soon after, faint sounds of running water could be heard from the bathroom, a gentle pitter-patter. About half an hour later, Jiang Yao emerged from the bathroom. A faint woody fragrance emanated from her, as if her entire being was enveloped in a hazy warmth. I'm done with the shower, it's your turn. All right, you go to sleep first. Fu Yanli looked at Jiang Yao, his eyes carrying a trace of imperceptible tenderness. This scene felt like a return to the time before their divorce. Okay, Jiang Yao responded. At that moment, Fu Yanli reached out to pick up the pajamas. However, just as he lifted the pajamas, a small box hidden beneath them accidentally fell to the floor. Clang! The box made a crisp sound as it hit the ground. Catching both of their attention, their gazes simultaneously focused on that box. It was Fu Yanli who reacted first, bending down to pick up the box and tucking it into the bedside drawer. Explaining, I didn't prepare this, I know, it must have been Auntie Jean who put it there. When Fu Yanli came out after showering, he didn't find anyone on the bed. Jiang Yao lay on the sofa, covered with a blanket, looking very petite. Jiang Yao had fallen asleep. Fu Yanli heard her long, steady breathing. He bent down and placed a kiss on Jiang Yao's forehead. Chapter 101. Did you go too far last night? Early the next morning, Fu Yanli opened his eyes. He sat up from the sofa and glanced toward the bed. There, Jiang Yao lay quietly, still fast asleep, afraid of waking her. Fu Yanli carefully got out of bed and tiptoed toward the bathroom. After washing up, he returned to the bedside and carefully studied Jiang Yao's face. Suddenly, he noticed something unusual. Jiang Yao's complexion looked quite abnormal, with only half of her face exposed while the rest was tightly wrapped in the blanket. The exposed half of her cheek displayed an unnatural flush, like a ripe apple. Fu Yanli's heart tightened, and he couldn't help but reach out his fingers to gently touch her forehead, trying to gauge her temperature. Yet, where his fingertips made contact, it was scalding hot. Yao Yao, Yao Yao. Fu Yanli called her name softly, his voice tinged with a hint of urgency. He gently nudged Jiang Yao's shoulder, trying to wake her. Jiang Yao murmured drowsily, still not fully awake. She frowned and curled up further, as if reproaching Fu Yanli for disturbing her peaceful sleep. Unable to wake her up, Fu Yanli had no choice but to call the family doctor. Jiang Yao has a fever, come to the old residence now, and hurry. Before long, a female doctor arrived in haste. Seeing the doctor arrive, the old lady quickly instructed Aunt Jean to help her upstairs to check on Jiang Yao's condition. The old lady leaned closer to Fu Yanli and asked in a hushed voice, "Yanli, what exactly happened to Yao Yao?" "Grandma, there's no need to worry. Yao Yao just has a fever. It's nothing serious," Fu Yanli reassured softly. Before the doctor arrived, he had taken Jiang Yao's temperature, which read 38.5 degrees. How did she get a fever as soon as she came back? The old lady muttered to herself, suddenly seeming to remember something and casting a reproachful glance at Fu Yanli. "Grandma, what's with that look? Why are you staring at me like that?" Fu Yanli asked. Utterly baffled, the old lady whispered quietly into Fu Yanli's ear, "Did you not know your limits and go too far? What are you thinking?" Fu Yanli smiled slightly and chuckled softly, "Don't let your imagination run wild. I'm here keeping watch, so you can rest assured and go take a break." That's fine too." The old lady nodded gently, then signaled to Mama Jean beside her to help her slowly walk out. As she walked, she didn't forget to remind Mama Jean, "Remember to go to the kitchen later and prepare some light and tasty food for Yao Yao. If she wakes up later, she can have a warm meal right away." The female doctor skillfully administered a fever-reducing injection to Jiang Yao on the hospital bed, then straightened up and looked at Fu Yanli, who wore an anxious expression, speaking calmly, "There's no need to worry too much. From what I can see, she's fine for now. The sudden fever might be due to overexertion recently, which has weakened her immune system. Is there anything we should pay special attention to in daily life?" Fu Yanli asked with a furrowed brow, his eyes revealing a hint of worry and unease. "Nothing in particular, just make sure she gets plenty of rest," the female doctor reassured with a smile. But upon noticing the tense expression on Mr. Fu's face, she couldn't help adding, "Actually, your wife is in very good health. If I weren't a doctor, I wouldn't even be able to tell she's had a baby. Her recovery is remarkable, it's truly enviable." Hearing this, Fu Yanli suddenly widened his eyes, his face filled with disbelief, and he exclaimed loudly, "Wait, what did you just say? She's had a baby?" The female doctor was startled, realizing she might have said something wrong, and quickly explained, Yes. But I could also be mistaken. Maybe I misunderstood. After all, you can't always tell for sure whether someone has had a child just by their appearance." However, Fu Yanli's expression showed no sign of being swayed by the doctor's explanation. On the contrary, his face grew even more solemn and rigid. After a long pause, he finally spoke slowly, "Thank you. You may leave now." Hearing this, the female doctor hurried away as if granted a pardon. Fu Yanli sat quietly by the bedside, his gaze fixed motionlessly on Jiang Yao, who was sound asleep. Time seemed to freeze at this moment as he silently watched her. After a long while, Fu Yanli finally reached his hand gently under the blanket, carefully placing it on Jiang Yao's abdomen. He still remembered clearly that there were no surgical scars on Jiang Yao's stomach, so she must have given birth to the child naturally. But, is this child a boy or a girl? To this, he actually knew nothing at all, at that moment. Jiang Yao groggily opened her eyes, feeling only that her head was still a bit dizzy. When she noticed a hand resting on her belly, she couldn't help but be startled and blurted out, "What are you doing?" Her voice carried a hint of hoarseness, exuding a charm and cuteness that was completely different from her usual demeanor. Fu Yanli quickly withdrew his hand, then carefully tucked her blanket in place and asked softly, "How do you feel? Are you uncomfortable anywhere? Are you hungry?" Jiang Yao shook her head. She had no appetite at the moment. "Even if you're not hungry, you should eat a little something. Rest some more after eating, and wait for me," Fu Yanli gently instructed. With that, he turned and left the room. Not long after, Fu Yanli returned to the bedside. This time holding a steaming bowl of minced meat porridge, he gently placed the porridge aside, then carefully lifted Jiang Yao from under the blankets. After that, he propped a soft pillow behind her back. Allowing her to lean comfortably, he picked up a spoon, carefully scooped a portion of the porridge, and lightly blew on it to ensure the temperature was just right before slowly bringing it to Jiang Yao's lips. Jiang Yao looked at the man before her and extended a hand, saying, "I can do it myself." However, Fu Yanli's hand didn't move. He insisted, "Let me feed you." His voice deep and resolute, a hint of confusion flickered in Jiang Yao's heart. She felt that Fu Yanli seemed a bit off today, but couldn't pinpoint exactly what was unusual. After a moment of hesitation, she finally opened her mouth and ate the spoonful of porridge, and so, Fu Yanli fed Jiang Yao spoonful by spoonful, and soon, the bowl of porridge was empty. Fu Yanli then set the bowl aside. Jiang Yao lay back down, closing her eyes to rest. At that moment, Fu Yanli suddenly called out softly, "Yao Yao." Hearing her name, Jiang Yao lifted her head and met Fu Yanli's gaze. His eyes were deep and dark as ink. Her heart couldn't help but tighten. "Do we have a child?" Fu Yanli's voice carried a hint of anticipation and nervousness. Hearing this, Jiang Yao was momentarily stunned before forcing a faint smile and chiding, "What nonsense are you talking about? I'm the one with a fever, yet it's you who seems confused." After speaking, Jiang Yao quickly lowered her head and burrowed under the covers, as if trying to escape Fu Yanli's gaze. However, Fu Yanli didn't give up easily. He reached out to gently lift the blanket, looking intently at Jiang Yao as he asked again, "Yao Yao, don't lie to me. You gave birth to our baby, didn't you?" His eyes revealed a determination and persistence that was impossible to ignore. Chapter 102, Boy or Girl? Jiang Yao had nowhere to hide. "Why didn't you tell me? Did you find out after the divorce?" Jiang Yao looked at him. "No, I insisted on divorcing you only after I found out I was pregnant." A flicker of pain flashed in Fu Yanli's eyes. "Why, I told you, I didn't want to stay with you." Jiang Yao's tone was unusually calm. "I didn't want to be tied to you because of a child." Fu Yanli's hand trembled slightly. "You've been back for so long. Why didn't you tell me? You resent me." "I didn't think it was necessary, and I wasn't sure how long I'd stay in City A." Before she could finish her sentence, Fu Yanli suddenly leaned down, pressing his lips tightly against hers. Giving her no time to react, his tongue darted into her mouth like a nimble serpent, as if trying to devour her whole. This sudden kiss caught Jiang Yao completely off guard. Her eyes widened in shock, and her hands instinctively tried to push Fu Yanli away, but he held her firmly, leaving her unable to move. Gradually, her body began to soften, and her initially tense nerves slowly relaxed as she became immersed in the long, lingering kiss. After what felt like an eternity, Fu Yanli finally loosened his grip on her lips, both of them breathing heavily, gazing at Jiang Yao's swollen lips. His eyes flickered with complex emotions as he whispered softly, "I'm sorry, can you tell me, was it a boy or a girl?" Jiang Yao pursed her lips in silence. Seemingly still dazed from the kiss moments ago, dizzy, want to sleep, Jiang Yao finally spoke softly after a long pause. Seeing this, Fu Yanli gently released her, carefully tucked her in, and said tenderly, "Then rest well. We'll talk when you wake up." With that, Fu Yanli slowly stood up and quietly left the room. The moment he closed the door, images of Jiang Yao's unusual behavior suddenly flashed through his mind. Especially during his previous stay at her place, Jiang Yao had seemed unusually tense, even fearful of him entering other rooms. Now, everything made sense. Fu Yanli felt an indescribable surge of wild joy in his heart. He began to imagine what his child with Jiang Yao would look like. Would they resemble their father more, or take after their mother a little more? However, this joy didn't last long, as the figure of another person suddenly intruded into his thoughts. Fu Chuji. Without hesitation, Fu Yanli picked up his phone and dialed Fu Chuji's number. "Hey, bro." Fu Chuji's clear voice came through the phone. "I have something to ask you." Fu Yanli recalled the question Fu Chuji had asked him in the hospital room about that adorable set of triplets. Despite the anticipation in his heart, he still didn't dare to jump to conclusions. At this moment, Fu Chuji was enjoying the attentive care of his parents at home, living a very comfortable life. "Brother, go ahead and say it. Did you already know that my sister-in-law gave birth to a child?" Fu Yanli asked directly. Fu Chuji was startled, never expecting that his brother had already noticed. This made him secretly marvel. Hello." Fu Chuji decided to play dumb. "Brother, what are you talking about? I can't hear you clearly." "Bad signal." Fu Yanli's voice was deep and heavy. "Stop pretending. I already know. Your sister-in-law told me." "Well, brother, it's not that I didn't want to tell you, but sister-in-law made me promise not to say anything. I only found out by accident during my hospital stay." "Is it about those triplets?" Fu Yanli's voice trembled slightly at the end. "Yes, they're incredibly well behaved and adorable. I've already gotten quite close with my nephews and niece." Fu Yanli hung up the phone decisively. He had just learned that he had a son and a daughter. Fu Chuji, on the other hand, had already gotten familiar with his son and daughter first. Chapter 103, Afraid she might be unhappy. Fu Yanli had been standing in front of the car for 5 minutes. "Mr. Fu, are you planning to go out?" the driver cautiously asked. Fu Yanli gave a slight nod in agreement, but just as he reached to open the car door, he suddenly changed his mind. "I'll drive myself," not daring to say more. The driver quickly stepped aside. Fu Yanli drove all the way to the Jiang residence. In front of the Jiang family's home was a large garden, and the scenery inside could be clearly seen through the gate. He parked the car a few meters away from the Jiang residence, only rolling down the window halfway. Fu Yanli came this time just to try his luck. After all, if Jiang Yao wasn't home, the children would naturally be taken care of by his parents-in-law. He silently lit a cigarette. His gaze fixed in the direction of the Jiang family. Unexpectedly, he actually encountered them. Though the distance was considerable, he could still hear the children's cheerful laughter. 3 adorable children were gathered in a circle, playing happily with a little corgi. The corgi bounced around, making the children burst into laughter. Meanwhile, Shalan followed behind them, keeping a close eye on the children's every move. "Dodo, come and have some water." Gigi squatted down, picked up a water cup from the side, poured some water into it, and gently fed it to the puppy. Yu gently stroked the puppy's soft fur. At this moment, Shalan said softly, "Kids, play with the puppy for a little while longer, and then we'll have to return it to the neighbor's brother." "Okay, yay," the children answered in unison. Fu Yanli's hand lightly rested on the car door, then without hesitation, he pushed it open. Yet, in that very instant, he suddenly halted his movement. As if time had frozen, he stood silently in place for several seconds before slowly closing the just-opened car door and rolling up the window with a casual motion. He pondered to himself. If he rashly went to visit the children, Jiang Yao might be displeased. After all, this was entirely his own initiative. Done without seeking her consent beforehand, he was too slow to realize it, recalling the first time they met these 3 adorable little ones. Han Xiongyu and others had mentioned that the children bore a striking resemblance to him. Even his parents, upon seeing the children, had expressed similar observations. Yet, at that time, he remained completely oblivious. Failing to grasp the deeper meaning behind it all, at this moment, Shalan noticed the familiar car parked near her home. She couldn't help but feel puzzled. Why does this car look so familiar? Could it be her former son-in-law's car? "Sweethearts, why don't you take the puppy inside to play first? Grandma will join you in just a moment. How about we play hide-and-seek together, but don't make it too easy for Grandma to find you," Shalan said gently to the children. Innocent little Jing and the others didn't think too much about it. Happily picking up the puppy, they headed inside to find a good hiding spot. After they left, Shalan walked slowly towards the car. Fu Yanli noticed this. He quickly extinguished the cigarette in his hand, opened the car door to get out, and then called out first, "Mom." A faint smile appeared on Shalan's face as she responded. "Yanli, what brings you here?" Fu Yanli answered frankly, "I wanted to see the children." Shalan understood his purpose and nodded, saying, "Do you already know everything?" Fu Yanli gave a soft in affirmation. Shalan then asked, "Then why not go in?" Fu Yanli hesitated for a moment before explaining, "Yao Yao doesn't know I'm here. I'm worried she might be upset." "Yanli, I'd like to ask you, what exactly are your feelings for Yao Yao now?" Fu Yanli responded with a serious and solemn expression. "Mom, I want to pursue Yao Yao again. There were some misunderstandings between us in the past, and back then, we were young and impulsive, not handling our relationship properly. I won't interfere too much in your affairs. Yao Yao has always been decisive, and the fact that she was so resolute in divorcing you back then must mean she was deeply hurt. Mom, thank you for your understanding. I realize now that I won't hurt her the way I did before. It's all right. As a mother, I only wish Yao Yao could be happy and content." Even though she's now a mother herself, Shalan's eyes revealed a trace of tenderness. "Would you like to go in and see them?" "No, perhaps next time, when I can come with Yao Yao." By the time Jiang Yao woke from her sleep, it was already evening. Fu Yanli entered the room and immediately noticed her sitting quietly by the bed, her expression somewhat dazed. Hearing someone approach, Jiang Yao paused for a moment before slowly raising her head, looking at him with dazed eyes. "Has the fever gone down?" Fu Yanli reached out to touch her forehead, carefully assessing. "Not as hot as before. Let's take your temperature again later with a thermometer." "I want to go home," Jiang Yao said. Fu Yanli asked gently, "It's already very late today. How about we go back tomorrow?" Jiang Yao repeated once more, "I want to go home." "All right, can we finish dinner first before heading back? I'll take you home afterward." Jiang Yao didn't have much appetite and only ate a little absent-mindedly. Fu Yanli took the wheel while Jiang Yao sat in the passenger seat. She reclined the seat, wrapped herself in a blanket, and lay down to rest. The entire journey was very quiet, with the car's air conditioning on, creating a warm and cozy atmosphere. When Fu Yanli drove to the Jiang family's residence, he noticed that Jiang Yao had fallen asleep again. Fu Yanli carefully pulled down the blanket covering Jiang Yao's head a little, making sure her nose was exposed for normal breathing. After about half an hour, Jiang Yao slowly woke up. "Why didn't you wake me up?" Her voice was slightly hoarse but sounded utterly adorable. "I just arrived. It hasn't been long. Thank you for driving me back." After saying this, Jiang Yao prepared to unbuckle her seatbelt and get out of the car. However, Fu Yanli suddenly grabbed her hand and said, "Yao Yao, can you give me another chance?" Chapter 104 The Old Photograph. Jiang Yao slowly withdrew her hand, gazing into Fu Yanli's eyes as she raised her hand and gently placed it on his temple. "Fu Yanli, have you ever thought that perhaps we're just not right for each other? Otherwise, why would we have ended up at the point of divorce?" Fu Yanli tilted his head slightly, his cool lips brushing against the back of Jiang Yao's hand. "Yet, you still like me, don't you?" Jiang Yao took a deep breath. "I admit, perhaps I do still have feelings for you, but that doesn't mean we have to be together. Trust me, give us another chance, will you?" Jiang Yao averted her gaze. "It's too late. Drive carefully. Goodbye." Fu Yanli refused to let her leave. Reaching out to grip her waist and lifting her up, Jiang Yao's legs parted as she straddled Fu Yanli's lap. Ahead was the man's burning chest, while her back pressed tightly against the steering wheel. "What are you doing?" Jiang Yao exerted all her strength to break free, but to no avail. Fu Yanli cupped her face in his hands, his eyes filled with tenderness and affection, whispering softly, "I love you, Jiang Yao, whether you believe it or not. I've felt for a long time that you're different from everyone else." Hearing these words, Jiang Yao suddenly felt as if her heart were being torn apart. Tears welled up in her eyes as she struggled to hold them back, saying, "But I never felt it, especially during our married life. Those were the most painful days of my life. I never lived freely at all. I'm sorry, I've been such a jerk." Every word from Jiang Yao pierced his heart like a sharp embroidery needle. You're always leaving early and coming back late, barely spending any time with me, let alone having a proper conversation. Not only that, you're often cold and verbally abusive, even resorting to emotional neglect, and on such an important day as our wedding anniversary, you actually stood me up. By the end, Jiang Yao's voice was trembling with suppressed sobs, as if she were on the verge of collapse. Tears streamed down uncontrollably. I'm sorry. Fu Yanli gently kissed her cheeks, and when his lips touched her tears, he tasted a salty bitterness. Jiang Yao silently shed tears, unable to utter a single word. Fu Yanli straightened up. His gaze falling on the wallet beside him, Jiang Yao watched his actions with some curiosity, unsure of what he intended to do. Then, Fu Yanli slowly opened the wallet and pulled out a photograph. He handed it to Jiang Yao and asked softly, "Do you remember this photo?" Jiang Yao focused her gaze and instantly widened her eyes in shock. The photo actually showed her from high school, looking much more youthful compared to now. Back then, she had just finished running 800 meters. Her face flushed red, sweat soaking her bangs and sticking them to her cheeks, yet her smile was exceptionally radiant. "How did this end up with you?" Jiang Yao instinctively reached out to snatch the photo. It was practically one of the most embarrassing snapshots from her student days. At that time, she was so exhausted it felt like half her life was gone. Yet the homeroom teacher forcibly stopped her to take a commemorative photo. Fu Yanli swiftly hid the photo behind his back. Dodging Jiang Yao's attempt to snatch it, with a smile, he said, "This is my treasure. I just took it out to show you. That's clearly my photo. The person in it is me, so of course I have the right to take it back." Jiang Yao's emotions flared up. She couldn't bear the thought of her unflattering photo being in someone else's hands. "No, don't you want to know how I got it?" Fu Yanli's lips curled slightly as he continued on his own. "You were the outstanding student representative at school back then, with your photo displayed on the bulletin board. And I quietly slipped to the bulletin board after school when no one was around, and tore your photo off." At this point, Fu Yanli couldn't help but laugh. As if recalling the tense and thrilling scene from that time, he shook his head with emotion and sighed. "To be honest, I've never done anything so sneaky in my life, so it was you who did this all along." Jiang Yao widened her eyes, exclaiming in astonishment. At this moment, the mystery in her heart was finally solved. She clearly remembered that after school that day, she deliberately stayed a little longer at the school. She remembered that Fu Yanli's photo was also posted there, and she couldn't bear the thought of so many people seeing her unflattering picture. What was even more unacceptable was that the unflattering photo was placed right next to Fu Yanli's. She wanted to secretly replace the photo with a prettier one. However, when she rushed to the bulletin board, she was shocked to find that the spot where her photo should have been was now completely blank. Just then, Jiang Yao accidentally glanced out the car window and let out a scream. Ah, there, pressed against the window, was Gigi's adorable smiling face. Fu Yanli was clearly startled by this sudden turn of events as well. His body trembled slightly, and a look of astonishment flashed across his face. "Hurry up and let go." Jiang Yao flusteredly tried to return to the passenger seat, her heart racing and a faint blush spreading across her cheeks. The entire scene became extremely awkward and chaotic, even though she knew Gigi couldn't see from outside. She inexplicably felt a deep sense of shame. Chapter 105. You bullied mommy. After Fu Yanli and Jiang Yao smoothed out the wrinkles in their clothes, they cautiously stepped out of the car. "Gigi, why did you run out here all by yourself?" Jiang Yao hurried over and scooped the little one into her arms. "Where's Grandma?" Grandma was supposed to come out with Gigi to welcome mommy, but when she saw this car, she went back inside first. Gigi said in her sweet, childish voice, "So that's how it is." Jiang Yao nodded thoughtfully, secretly guessing that her mother was probably worried she might feel awkward. Hearing this, Gigi turned her head angrily to glare at Fu Yanli, pouting as she said, "You just bullied mommy." Fu Yanli was both amused and exasperated, quickly admitting his mistake. All right, Uncle knows he was wrong, I'm sorry." His gaze was full of adoration as he stared straight at Gigi. The more he looked at her, the more he found this exquisitely delicate little girl utterly adorable. She was Yao Yao and his daughter, the most precious gift heaven had bestowed upon him. Gigi, however, was not appeased and still pouted angrily with her little mouth. Let's go inside first, Jiang Yao whispered to her daughter. Yao Yao, you haven't given me an answer about what I said earlier. Fu Yanli suddenly spoke up, stopping Jiang Yao as she was about to turn and enter the house. Jiang Yao paused in her steps, stood still for a moment in thought, then gave an ambiguous answer. Then, let's just go with the flow, us. With that, she continued walking into the house, holding Gigi in her arms, leaving Fu Yanli standing alone where he was, the corners of his lips curling slightly into a barely noticeable smile. Go with the flow. Well, at least Yao Yao didn't outright reject him. This means she is willing to give him a chance to pursue her, allowing this relationship to develop gradually. At night, under the neon lights of the city, outside a bustling bar, stood a beautiful woman in a white suit dress. Tang Yuro, her eyes revealed a hint of nervousness and anticipation, for standing before her was a man. Tang Yuro took a deep breath, mustering all her courage, and said to the man in front of her, Lin Zheshuan, I want to tell you something. Actually, I've liked you for a long time. Would you be my boyfriend? However, faced with Tang Yuro's sincere confession, Lin Zheshuan appeared unusually calm. Even wearing an expression of utter indifference on his face, he gently shook his head and replied, Yuro, you know I've always seen you as a younger sister. I've never thought of going beyond that relationship. Tang Yuro didn't give up easily, clenching her lips tightly. She looked at Lin Zheshuan with determined eyes and continued, Lin Zheshuan, I don't want to just be your younger sister. I truly like you and hope you'll seriously consider it. Today, I just want a clear answer. No matter the outcome, I won't bring this up again. She knew her own heart well. After this, she might never find the courage again. At that very moment, just as Lin Zheshuan was about to speak, suddenly, a sweet female voice came from afar, interrupting their conversation. Brother Zheshuan, why haven't you come in yet? Everyone is waiting for you. The owner of the voice gradually approached and appeared before them. The girl had a sweet and lovely appearance, with delicate makeup, and was wearing a white Chanel-style dress. Lin Zheshuan looked at the girl, then turned to Tang Yuro and said, Yuro, I'm sorry, let's talk next time. With that, he followed the girl into the bar. Tang Yuro stared blankly at their retreating figures, her heart filled with disappointment and helplessness. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she fought hard to keep them from falling. Lin Zheshuan didn't say it, but she had heard his answer. Tang Yuro walked down the road in a daze, but soon, she sensed something was wrong. It seemed there were footsteps behind her. She turned around abruptly. When she saw that the person approaching was Fu Chuji, the tension in her heart instantly melted away, and she let out a soft sigh of relief. Fu Chuji smiled awkwardly, trying to explain, what a coincidence to run into you here. Tang Yuro's gaze fixed tightly on him as she asked calmly, you saw everything, didn't you? Fu Chuji scratched his head sheepishly. I swear I wasn't eavesdropping on purpose. I just stepped out for a smoke and didn't expect to overhear your conversation. Tang Yuro took a deep breath, as if trying to steady her emotions. Then, she suddenly turned around and quickened her pace, as if trying to escape from this embarrassing situation. Seeing this, Fu Chujing hurriedly jogged after her and called out, Hey, don't walk so fast. Tang Yuro stopped in her tracks, turned around, and with a hint of a sarcastic smile at the corner of her mouth, questioned, What, do you want to see me make a fool of myself? Fu Chujing quickly shook his head in denial. No, I absolutely didn't mean that. Tang Yuro frowned and pressed further. Then why are you following me? Fu Chuji's face turned slightly red as he stammered, I was just a little worried about you. Tang Yuro slightly raised her tiptoes, leaning forward to close the distance between them until only a finger's width remained. Her eyes sparkled with a challenging glint as she whispered, Do you dare to kiss me? Fu Chuji's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. He hesitated for a moment but quickly regained his confidence and firmly replied, Why wouldn't I dare? With that, he reached out, grasped Tang Yuro by the waist, pulled her forcefully into his arms, and without hesitation, pressed his lips to hers. Chapter 106, Adults, TSK. When Tang Yuro woke up in bed, she felt a splitting headache, as if countless steel needles were churning inside her skull. She rubbed her temples. She vaguely remembered not drinking too much last night, so why did she feel so terrible? You're awake. Suddenly, a deep voice reached her ears, startling Tang Yuro. She turned her head and saw Fu Chujing lying beside her, gazing at her with somewhat dazed eyes. Tang Yuro's heart raced instantly. She quickly lifted the blanket to check if anything had happened between her and Fu Chujing. Thank goodness, everything still seemed normal. Last night was inappropriate, and thank you. Tang Yuro quickly rolled out of bed, trying her best to appear composed. Fu Chujing raised an eyebrow, a hint of teasing smile playing at the corner of his lips. Are you just going to let it slide after taking advantage of me last night? Tang Yuro's body stiffened instantly, unsure how to respond to that question. At that moment, an abrupt ringtone broke the awkward silence. Tang Yuro exhaled in relief as if a weight had been lifted and began fumbling through her clothes pockets, searching for her phone. Here, Fu Chujing's voice came again, as he stretched out his long arm and effortlessly picked up Tang Yuro's phone from the bedside table. Tang Yuro hurriedly reached out to take it, but Fu Chujing pulled his hand back, evading her touch. Give it to me. Tang Yuro was growing both angry and embarrassed, unable to comprehend why Fu Chuji was toying with her like this. Fu Chuji smiled faintly and countered, Are you sure you want to answer it? Of course I do, it's my phone call. Tang Yuro retorted without backing down. Lin Zheshuan's. Fu Chuji uttered the 3 words casually before extending the phone toward Tang Yuro. Upon hearing this name, Tang Yuro's face instantly turned pale, and her previously resolute gaze began to flicker uncertainly. After Fu Chujing calmly uttered these words, it was like a bomb being dropped into a tranquil lake, instantly stirring up towering waves. Tang Yuro's expression became extremely unpleasant. Her lips trembled slightly as she wanted to retort, but she couldn't find the right words. What happened last night was the most humiliating moment of her life. Shut up. Tang Yuro finally couldn't help but shout, without needing his reminder. She didn't want to hear Fu Chujie bring up this matter again, as if every mention was like rubbing salt in her wound. Fu Chujie didn't back down because of Tang Yuro's scolding. He handed his phone to her. Tang Yuro stared at the phone before her, her heart filled with conflict. She knew the call must be from Lin Zheshuan, but she really didn't want to answer it. Last night's experience had already left her deeply shaken, and now she just wanted to stay away from Lin Zheshuan to calm her emotions a little. However, just as she was about to hang up, Fu Chujing suddenly spoke up. Wait, there's a better way. Tang Yuro looked up at Fu Chujing in confusion, unsure of what he intended to do. Fu Chujie's lips curled slightly, revealing a mysterious smile. With a light swipe, he answered the phone. Lin Zheshuan's voice immediately came through from the other end. Yuro, where were you last night? I heard from your mother that you didn't come home. Don't make me worry. Hearing Lin Zheshuan's voice, Tang Yuro's body trembled involuntarily. She had thought she could face him calmly, but hearing his voice now brought back the pain in her heart. Xiaro is still asleep. If you have something to say, you can tell me, and I'll pass it on for you. Fu Chujie's voice was calm and gentle, yet it carried an undeniable authority. Lin Zheshuan clearly hadn't anticipated this situation, and his voice immediately rose an octave. Who are you? Why is Yuro with you? Fu Chujie paid no mind to Lin Zheshuan's questioning and replied indifferently. I'm Xiao's friend. She was tired last night, so she's resting here. If you have something important, I can relay it to her when she wakes up. What's your relationship? We're both adults, no need to ask in such detail. If you don't say anything, I'll hang up. Don't call Xiaro again in the future. I'll get jealous. Before Fu Chujing could finish speaking, Tang Yuro covered his mouth with her hand. Lin Zheshuan heard him speak halfway before the phone transmitted muffled sounds from the other end. This voice. Lin Zheshuan abruptly hung up the phone. Chapter 107, Lucian's Pursuit. Mom, I'm back. Gigi ran all the way, fluttering like a cheerful little bird into Jiang Yao's warm embrace. Oh, why are you home so early today, my little darling? Jiang Yao gently hugged her daughter and asked softly, Did Teacher Shen give you an early break? No, Mom, Gigi blinked her bright, lively eyes and answered with a giggle, A super handsome big brother brought me home. Hearing this, Jiang Yao couldn't help but curiously look at the man stepping out of the car. How could it be you? When she clearly saw the face of the newcomer, a hint of surprise welled up in her heart. Dressed in an exquisite suit, Lu Xing appeared exceptionally handsome and dashing. In his hands, he held a bouquet of vibrant red roses, fresh as if they were dripping with dew. Lucian walked up to Jiang Yao with a smile and explained, "I happened to be visiting my teacher, so I took the opportunity to safely escort my adorable junior sister home." Jiang Yao slightly furrowed her brows, her tone tinged with skepticism. "Actually, it's not really on the way, is it?" Lucian admitted without hesitation. "Well, no, it's not on the way. I came here specifically because I wanted to take this chance to see you." With that, he handed the bouquet of red roses, a symbol of love. To Jiang Yao, his eyes filled with anticipation. "I hope you'll like these flowers." Jiang Yao hesitated slightly before finally reaching out to take the bouquet of flowers, smiling as she said, "Thank you, I really like them." Lu Xing silently observed Jiang Yao's expression, as if trying to catch any subtle changes in her demeanor. After a moment, he finally mustered the courage to ask, "You like the flowers? Then, what about me? Is there a possibility for us to develop a closer relationship?" Jiang Yao's gaze grew somewhat complicated. She gently shook her head, her voice tinged with apology. "I'm sorry, but I don't think we're quite right for each other." However, Lucian showed no trace of frustration or disappointment. Instead, he smiled with relief and said firmly, "It's all right, if we can't be lovers. Then at least let me hug you, okay? From now on, I won't disturb your life too much." After speaking, he quietly waited for Jiang Yao's response. Jiang Yao generously opened her arms, stepped toward him, and then hugged him tightly. This scene happened to catch the eye of Fu Yanli not far away, as if thousands of tiny needles had simultaneously pierced his heart, filling him with unbearable pain. His gaze grew dim and lifeless. Watching the handsome man and beautiful woman before him, his heart overwhelmed with endless agony and despair, he took a deep breath, trying hard to calm his emotions. After all, they were already divorced. She had every right to make her own choices. After Lu Xing left, Fu Yanli slowly walked towards Jiang Yao. Jiang Yao looked up in confusion, her gaze meeting his directly. Fu Yanli struggled to maintain his composure and said expressionlessly, "I came here just to deliver a document to you." He took out an agreement from his briefcase and handed it to her, adding, "This is an agreement regarding child custody. I won't fight you for custody. And the frequency of my weekly visits with the child will be entirely up to you." Jiang Yao took the agreement with relief and nodded in agreement. "Okay, thank you." Fu Yanli gritted his teeth before continuing, "Lu Xing does have excellent qualities in every aspect, but after all, he's still too young. Young people might lack patience when it comes to taking care of children, so you need to think carefully, of course. I'm not trying to interfere in your life. I'm saying this purely for the child's sake. Forget about the child, he probably can't even take good care of you. He doesn't even know your favorite color of roses." Jiang Yao naturally understood Fu Yanli's true thoughts and responded, "I know what you mean. Is there anything else you want to say?" After a moment of silence, Fu Yanli replied, "Nothing else for now, you can go upstairs first." Jiang Yao hesitated and asked, "Would you like to go up and see the children now?" Jiang Yao never dreamed in her wildest dreams that Fu Yanli could get along with the children so harmoniously and effortlessly. A whole afternoon passed, with the three little ones calling Fu Yanli daddy one after another, as naturally as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. However, Fu Yanli put on an air of feigned reserve. When he saw Jiang Yao arrive, he even deliberately instructed the children, "From now on, you should call me uncle, not daddy anymore." When Fu Yanli left, Gigi was still nestled in his arms, unwilling to let go. After Fu Yanli had gone, Jiang Yao slowly opened the agreement. As expected, the contents of the agreement were exactly as Fu Yanli had previously stated. Moreover, inside the agreement, there were 4 black cards prominently placed. Presumably, these black cards were prepared for each of them. Faced with such an enormous fortune, Jiang Yao didn't dare to entrust it to the children lightly, so she decided to keep it safe for the time being. Moreover, Fu Yanli's claim that the frequency of their weekly meetings would be determined by Jiang Yao turned out to be nothing but empty words. In reality, Fu Yanli visited almost every day, which made Jiang Yao wonder if the company was on the verge of bankruptcy. Thus, several days of peaceful and uneventful life passed by. Unexpectedly, Su Jinyu, that troublemaker, started stirring up trouble again. Jiang Yao's workplace was exposed, with accusations that she obtained her job through backdoor connections. Meanwhile, Su Jinyu's father's status as a martyr and her identity as a martyr's family member were also made public, quickly garnering widespread public sympathy and compassion. Yao, I've already handled the rumors online, I'm sorry. Fu Yanli rushed to Jiang Yao's home as soon as he learned about the incident. It's okay, she can't affect me. Fu Yanli hugged her. I'm sorry. I just found out about all the things she did before, making you suffer. Hearing these words, Jiang Yao's eyes turned slightly red. So you finally know. I'm an idiot for not being there for you properly before and knowing nothing. Chapter 108 The Grand Finale. The Fu family began to take action. And Su Jinyu's previous attempts to manipulate public opinion were completely exposed. Su Jinyu faced a complete industry blacklist, after which she vanished without a trace, with no further news about her ever emerging. The last time Jiang Yao saw her, she was cleaning a piano classroom. After struggling to find suitable employment, Su Jinyu went through countless hardships before securing a janitorial job. The sight of that once elegant woman who played the piano so gracefully now reduced to such circumstances is truly heartbreaking. My mother wishes to see her grandchildren today, so she sent me to ask for your opinion, Fu Yanli said softly, gently squeezing her shoulder. Yu thoughtfully brought her a glass of juice and called out, Mom, drink up. Thank you, my little darling. Jiang Yao now lives a comfortable and pleasant life, with several considerate errand runners by her side. Since Mom wants to see the kids, let's go visit her. Alright, I'll drive. Jiang Yao shot him a sidelong glance. You don't need to come, we can go by ourselves. Why not? I'm taking the babies with me. What are you tagging along for? After all, he still doesn't have the status yet. Fu Yanli's mind raced. Mom isn't home today, let's go in a couple of days. That works too. Without Jiang Yao knowing, Fu Yanli made a call to his assistant. A week later, Fu Yanli asked Jiang Yao to change into a white evening gown, a haute couture one at that. Isn't it just to meet your mom? Why so formal? Jiang Yao looked puzzled at the outfit she was wearing. You look beautiful, Fu Yanli said softly. Jiang Yao lowered her head, avoiding his gaze, thinking to myself, Fu Yanli has really changed. Now he's both flirtatious and well-behaved. When getting into the cars, the three little ones got into the one behind. Why aren't the babies riding with us? Jiang Yao asked. We'll go first. They can take their time, Fu Yanli replied gently. Jiang Yao didn't suspect anything, so she didn't think much more about it. The car drove smoothly all the way and finally reached the destination. Jiang Yao got out of the car, only to be shocked to find that she had been deceived. The first thing that caught her eye was a tower adorned with pink-white diamonds, sparkling in the night like a dreamy scene. On either side were her favorite plum-colored roses. Forming a magnificent rose carpet, Jiang Yao's palms began to sweat. Feeling somewhat nervous and at a loss, she saw Jiyu Pan, Shalan, Jiang Yuji, and Tang Yuro standing there, all with smiles on their faces, to her even greater delight. The three little ones had also changed into adorable little formal outfits, looking exceptionally spirited and cute. Fu Yanli gave her an encouraging glance and led her to the base of the tower. Then, Fu Yanli slowly knelt down on one knee. Gazing at Jiang Yao with sincere and affectionate eyes, I'm sorry, Yao, for not discussing it with you beforehand. It was indeed rather abrupt. Our first wedding was too rushed, lacking both a romantic proposal and a grand ceremony. So today, I want to make up for the regrets left behind. Please give me another chance. Yao, will you marry me again? This time, I promise not to let you down. Fu Yanli gently opened the velvet box, revealing a dazzling pigeon-egg diamond ring resting inside. Jiang Yao's gaze swept across the surroundings. Realizing that every person present was someone profoundly important and intimately close in her life, she took a deep breath and firmly made up her mind, saying, Fu Yanli, I must admit that there is still a place for you in my heart. This cannot be denied. But to be honest, I'm not yet fully prepared mentally to step back into the bonds of marriage with you. I'm truly sorry. Fu Yanli was not discouraged by Jiang Yao's rejection. Instead, he smiled, slipped the ring onto her finger, stood up, and embraced her tightly, saying, as long as there's still a place for me in your heart, that's enough. Hey, I haven't agreed to your proposal yet. Jiang Yao tried to push Fu Yanli away and protested, how could you put the ring on me without my consent? However, Fu Yanli gently reassured her, it's all right, it still belongs to you. Next time I propose, I'll definitely prepare an even more beautiful ring for you, all right? Then I'll be waiting. Ji Yupan stepped forward. Yao Yao, you made the right choice not to agree. Let this brat chase after you for a few more years. Jiang Yuji, if you want to win over my sister, you'll have to get through me, her big brother, first. Shalan, Yao Yao, no rush to remarry, we're still young. There are plenty of opportunities ahead. Thank you for watching. This novel comes to an end here. Thanks for everyone's support and following. See you in the next novel.